Hey, everybody. Welcome to Squatch Talk. I'm Pat. And tonight we got a cool show for you, I think. Joined with us tonight is Mr. Bill Reid, as promised, and our good buddy Jay Birch, who's graced us tonight. Man, he had some availability, so I asked him. He said, "Sure, I'm in." And we're gonna just kind of start talking about skepticism a little bit because Bill himself, he's a open-minded skeptic. I think it's fair to say, interested, like, what's going on here? But hey, I'm not sold on any one particular thing. This is some kind of phenomenon. Whether I get a little feedback there. I don't know who that is. Whether it's it could be 1,000 different things, or like some kind of human psychology. So yeah, let's just jump right in. How you doing, Bill, tonight?
Pretty good. Yourself?
I'm fine. It's been a long week, but I'm good. Happy to be here. Happy to be talking with you guys, and happy to see Chat. Hey, Chat, what's up? Sorry, I wasn't trying to ignore you. And of course, Jay, how's it going, bud?
Good. I'm working my butt off. I've got to work tomorrow too. I've been working 60 or 58-hour weeks. So, I thought this was important. I want to throw some support your way, and I like Bill, and I think we need Bill, for those of us who have had encounters and things like that. We need a guy like Bill who's going to ask the right questions, in my opinion, also as a skeptic. If we can't run away from the questions, we can't get mad every time somebody says, well, I don't believe, or I don't. He's not calling anybody a liar. He's not doing it. And that's what I admire about him. He's not making fun of anybody either. Yeah. Bill's a good guy. So I'm proud to be on the show with him tonight. So.
Well, good, Jay. And again, like I said this to Bill right before we went on air, and I'll say it now to everybody watching. Bill is not in the hot seat. So this is not, this isn't any kind of hot seat, like, aha, I got you. See, you're a bad skeptic or whatever. And, it's nothing like that. We're just having an open discussion. And I just thought I'd lead off with the skepticism part, because I'm a skeptic. I'm also a skeptic. And so basically, how I wanted to address that is, unfortunately, all too many people in the Bigfoot community, the word skeptic means, like, the definition is you're a mean person who laughs at me and says Bigfoot isn't real. And that is not the definition of skepticism whatsoever, or what it is to be a skeptic. In fact, people like that, people who are mean and laugh and say, that's stupid, Bigfoot is, those are actually closed-minded people. So you're mislabeling them. We're all skeptical of something. So every single person in the world practices skepticism, even if they don't know it. We're all skeptical of something. So it's just a healthy thing to embrace, and so the opposite of skeptic is gullible. And who wants to be gullible? So if you have to pick one of those two things that are binary, you should always lean towards skeptic, not gullible. So anyway, I don't know. So what's up, Bill? How are you doing, man? And welcome to the show. What do you think about the word skepticism?
Well, thank you for having me. First off, I appreciate it. And for those that don't know, Jay's a heck of a cook. Watch his YouTube channel as well. Yes. I do enjoy it, Jay.
Thank you.
As far as skepticism goes, is there it has to be done correctly. You can be closed-minded. You can dismiss stuff out of hand, which you shouldn't be. So really, to do skepticism properly is you look at something from a neutral position. You then take evidence for and against, then use the balance of probabilities to decide whether or not you believe it's real or not real. And just before I start going down that road, I think it was last week, you had Patrick on the podcast, and if I'm misquoting Patrick here, I apologize. But one of the things that sort of struck me is he was talking about how he didn't feel comfortable, didn't know what to call what he called if it was a Sasquatch, because he felt that people like supposedly like me, a skeptic, would call him a liar, wouldn't believe it. And my point of view, and I don't care if you consider yourself a believer or a knower, is if you think you've seen a Sasquatch or you've seen a Sasquatch, say it. If somebody comes up to me and says, I know Sasquatch exists because I saw one at 12 feet, what's wrong with that? I wasn't there. I'm not the omnipotent person that can say, no, you did not. So you should feel comfortable saying, I saw one. But you should also feel comfortable when I say to you, hey, that's great. Can you tell me about the encounter? If I have questions for you, don't take it as an insult. Take it as I want to know as best as I can what exactly you saw. And if I give you alternate explanations, do me the same courtesy to look at my explanations. And if you can tell me why that's not correct, that's great. But nobody should feel like, Jay, I know you've had a sighting. You should never feel not comfortable saying to somebody, I know Sasquatch exists because I saw one. And if you're like Thomas, who says, I may have seen one, but I'm not sure, that's being honest too. And
Yep.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with either approach. So if somebody said, if we're talking and I say, I think you saw, or you think you saw a Sasquatch, that's not an insult. I'm not trying to insult you. It's, to me, when you say I know or I believe or I say I think, it's really just conversation we're having. That's no insults intended.
What a red flag for me is if I question somebody, or even if I am disappointed in what I'm hearing, if you go off on me, that tells me right away that you're already a liar. If I can't ask you a question, or if you become defensive immediately, that tells me that there's something wrong with your story. And that might not be 100% all the time, but most of the time you'll find that that will be true. I will answer anything anybody ever wants to ask me about what happened to me and my wife. And I've never, ever, ever tried to embellish. Sibylla Irwin was trying to draw a picture for me, and I told her I didn't focus on her face because she looked like a woman to me. So there's nothing. And so she stopped drawing, and she appreciated that greatly, because I'm just not going to embellish. I'm just going to tell you what I saw, and that's it. I put up with a lot of crap, but I've never got upset about it. I just think to myself, especially from, I know of engineers that know about Sasquatch, and then I know of engineers that don't, and they're just terrible people. But I just, as long as, there are times I just get impatient, but, I can only tell you what I saw. I can only tell you how I felt, all those emotions that still bother me. There are times still, I thought I was doing all right, but I'm not. But it's still, people, if you have to ask the questions, and that's what I admire about you, Bill, is you're straight up, you're out there, you're very upfront about how you feel about these things, and you like I said, we need guys like you to ask those questions. And there's nothing wrong with policing this so-called community, because if it's a family, it's a very dysfunctional family. I tell you that. That's why I left again. I'm not a part of this anymore. I'm doing something with somebody right now that I'll be with tomorrow, and I'm hoping he's watching right now. I gave him the link and all that, but he's a guy that I'm going to be working with the book and the documentary he wants to film. But I think that we need just as important in some of these documentaries is the other side. and you're not saying they don't exist. You don't have the, that's what I try to tell people is there's different ways to approach this. You can come up and say, laugh and point your finger and look at this idiot. Or you can sit back and say, here's why it doesn't make sense to me. And I respect that 100%. I will take that anytime. Anytime. I respect a man who says that you have to give this to me. I've always said for myself, you need to convince me, the woo people and the other people like that, the dimensional people and all this. Well, just prove it to me. That's all I'm asking. Don't get mad at me. Don't unfriend me. Don't call me names, because I'm asking you to prove to me or show me how it is you think these things walk through portals and fly spaceships and all the weird things that go. I mean, let's just solve it all with one book and call it quantum physics. Now we've got, okay, well, we've answered everything there's ever going to be. And that's not just Bigfoot. That's every problem in the world is answered by quantum physics. That's the newest thing I've noticed over the last 5 years, is that's going to solve everything. Every mysterious question you've ever had, it's quantum physics. So ghosts, right. Bigfoot, all of that stuff.
I have good reason to be skeptical of that theory, and I'm sure Bill does too. And we talked about me and some of the other guys talked about that the other night. A long thread of discussion about the molecular world and so yeah.
I wanted to join you. I wanted to join you guys so bad. Oh my god! Now I watch it. I do.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, so do I. And Jay, you mentioned that you don't want to embellish, and I think that's what not only what makes a good witness, but also what makes a good researcher. When you're asking people questions, you don't want to ask anything leading. You don't want to project your own biases onto them. And if they simply say, I don't know, or I didn't see that, accept it. Don't try to lead on. You may circle back to the question later and phrase it a different way when you're just looking for, validity in their statements and consistencies. But one of the worst things an investigator can do is start putting words into the mouth of somebody.
True. Yeah.
And one thing I just, when you were talking, what I had a thought when I was on Daniela's show, somebody in the chat said that they thought that I need to have a sighting myself to believe. And I'm going to get a T-shirt made with this on there one day, because somebody quoted and said, if I saw a Sasquatch, I'd need to give it a hug so I could check it for a zipper. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm going to get a T-shirt on that one day.
Yeah, I like that. And that's one thing, people get so passionate about this, and, from a lot of different angles, right? So that I've never thought it appropriate to say to somebody outside of the Bigfoot community, I'm like, the way you don't draw them in is to challenge them and say, well, you should go out in the woods and see one for yourself. Oh, you'll get yours. If you go out there and look for them, you'll find out real quick. And it's sort of that, you know what I mean? Like, it's a special scary thing I know about. And if you do it, I mean, it's almost like a contradiction to say that to somebody, but it's rude. Of course, it's a bit pretentious, and people don't realize that they're doing that because they're kind of wrapped up in the passion of, oh, you should think the way I think, and yeah.
And it's also doing the whole presumption game. That person that you're telling that to get out there and look might have double the amount of hours in the woods that you have.
Yeah, right.
Unless you've had that conversation, there are good people. And my one brother-in-law, he had a daytime sighting back in the late 70s. And to this day, I mean, he gets mad at me because I don't believe in Sasquatch because because he's seen one, right? And it's just he can't comprehend how my knowing him, and I've known him since 1973. I knew him. He wasn't long out of diapers when I first met him, and I mean I was in grade 3, so I wasn't much older myself. But you know, he gets upset because he thinks that I should automatically believe, and he's one of the guys that I know for a fact he's not a liar. I know for a fact that he's hunted and fished and 4-wheel drived and all that stuff his whole life. If there's a guy that had a sighting that was real, that's the guy. And if Sasquatch exists, he saw one. If they don't exist, I don't have a clue what he saw, because it certainly wasn't a bear. The footprint he found certainly wasn't a bear's. And those are the
Right.
those are the things that go on to, in my book, the if you want to think of a scale of justice or balance of probabilities, that's the stuff that goes on for me, showing that Sasquatch does exist. It's those ones.
And I think we need to I think the word believe has to come out of the discussion as a whole, because that implies an amount of faith, and we're not, we're not. That's not the right path. Obviously, that's not the right context. Is faith? Oh, I believe you, man. I have faith that you saw what you're saying you saw, and that you can interpret it the way you interpreted it, right? So yeah, the word believe isn't a one that I like to use much when it comes to Bigfoot.
Yeah, I think Dr. Meldrum said it actually pretty good. I don't know if you've seen that new series Sasquatch, that 3-part series on Hulu.
Oh yeah, I loved it. The Bigfoot
that was
community,
I
loved it, dude. I thought it was great. Yeah,
I thought it was good, but I think it was marketed wrong. But besides from that, when Meldrum said Dr. Meldrum said he was convinced. I do like that way of thinking. I think sometimes we get into semantics,
yeah,
what a word means, but
true.
When he says he's been convinced, and that's a good way of looking at it.
I think language is important. I actually don't think it's semantical. Like, even with those two words, I think are very important if you're ever trying to talk to somebody outside the Bigfoot community, because that word believe will trigger them into a way different way of looking at you. As you say convinced, I think that will trigger like two different paths of interest, believe it or not. So yes, semantics can be annoying, but I think language is very important when talking about Bigfoot to anyone that might be outside that community.
And I understand what you're saying there. The issue we get into, and you see it all the time, especially it seems more prevalent in the last few years, is people moving away from the Oxford definition of different words, and a lot of times we're not doing a standardized language when we're talking to each other. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think you're absolutely correct. If we could all get onto the same page and start using words the same way, it would make it a lot better. Because as the one show I was on, and by the way, this is only the 3rd show I've been on, so it's not like I've been on a lot. People are getting hung up on my phrasing because maybe I said something slightly different than what I wanted to say. And and sometimes it was just, I don't know if it's a regional difference in what a word means, or just they took the word differently. But we really, and I do agree with you, Pat, is we need to get back to defining what we mean.
But we have to also look.
Go ahead, Jay.
We have to be not afraid of oh no, your feelings got hurt. You know, that is so prevalent right now too. A question is a question. And if your feelings get hurt because someone asked you a question, I mean, I see with all the stupid shit that's going on TV, and we all know that this one with Dr. Maria and Russell and all those guys, this is a phony show. It's phony. Stephen Stratford's already proved that, and yet you can't convince the people on their fan page that it is. And then you get people that won't go up against Russell because he throws the world's biggest Sasquatch convention every year. And you know, and for me, I don't give a shit whether you like me or not, you know, and I'm sorry,
know that.
But you know,
I didn't know that. Sorry to interrupt your train of thought there, Jay. I'm sure you'll pick it back up, but I didn't know that Russell throws the biggest convention every year.
The international.
I did. Where at?
Here in Washington.
In Washington State.
Yes. Way up east. Way up east. It escapes you right now. That's
Yakima?
the one where
Yakima?
Kennewick. It's in Kennewick. So yeah, but it's people don't want to, you know. I mean, oh, look who I ran into today, or look who I picked up at the airport, and it's him, you know, or somebody that's big that runs these types of things or is on a show, and you know, you're just like, so what? You know why you can't find Bigfoot? Because you're looking, and you're looking, and like I always say, man, I see these people. Oh, this week, because they're trying to sell their brand. That's why I understand another reason why people don't believe this shit is it's my brand of Bigfoot is going to be sold at this convention, and along with 20 other brands of Bigfoot, and you're going to have all these. And this week or this month, I'll be actually researching with such and such in Alabama. Next week, I'm going to be in New Orleans. The month after that, I'll be speaking in Alberta, Canada. So, you know, and each time it's I'm researching with such and such here. No, you're not. No, you're not. If you don't go to the same place again and again and again and again, that's why my wife and I we've had multiple. Just the sighting once, but I mean, the prints and all those things, they're always there. They do the different sounds and things like that. And that's because we go to the same place. The other way is just, you know, you're out for yourself. You're out for your fame. You're out for your glory. There's just maybe 3 people. Shelley Montana is one I hold high on my list of research and things like that. But I don't consider myself a researcher. I've seen them. So I don't. Now we just go camping and stuff and hope to kind of interact if we can, you know, to get something we have, but not sightings anymore. But I can tell you just a quick funny story. 2 years after our encounter at this particular spot, we were there. We had our German Shepherd. She's being bad right now. When you see me looking away and stuff, she's just being awful tonight. But she was just about a year old. And so my wife and I are standing at the fire, and I look up where I saw that female walking down, and I start seeing leg movement in there clearly. And then I see this branch about 10 feet high move out of the way. And I looked at my wife and I started going, get ready, because it's coming right now. She's right over there. I said, get ready. A man on a horse, man. Gosh, just like scared the shit out of me. But I was jumping up and down his shoulder. Get ready. God damn it. I had to put the dog in the truck and everything. My heart's going poo, 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 poo. God dang.
Wow, dude, that's amazing, Jay. And I mean, yeah, for you to even be like humble enough to admit that, I love that. That's great. And man, how strange, you know, it almost makes you wonder. I mean, it all started adding up so fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in your mind, it just started adding up so fast. But then, and you hyper focused in on what that could be in that way.
When that branch moved way up there like that to clear the way, I was just like, "Oh my God, there's a man on a horse, dude."
That's great, dude. I have a cool story to tell. I'll tell this story later, but right now I'm going to bring in Daniel. Daniel has made it to the show. I guess he put the grandkid away, and
you don't put him away,
guys. I laid him down for bed. I didn't put him away. He'll be up. He'll be up in the morning.
My language is so misunderstood. Here I am talking about language, yet I guess I need to work on it the most. Welcome to the show, Daniel. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm glad I made it in here. Sorry I was a little late, but better late than never, I guess, right?
No, it's okay. So, I mean, we've just been doing what we do on Squatch Talk, and that's talking and discussing. So have you been following along?
No, I've been watching the baby until he went down. So I put him away.
we have a very contentious debate going on against Bill and Jay are debating Bigfoot, and it's very contentious. It's very heated. It might make you uncomfortable. So sorry.
So well, let me ask: Are you gentlemen? Are you guys Bigfoot believers or?
Oh,
I don't believe in Bigfoot, dude. I saw one. I know they're there.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Daniel. I was.
Pat's messing with you, dude. Bill and I are friends.
Yeah. I was trolling you a little bit, dude. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just having a good discussion about skepticism and seeing things or misinterpreting things. And Bill's somewhat of a skeptic, but he's open-minded. Jay, of course, he's seen one, and we're just discussing the general topic of all that, and the some of the tribalism and weirdness that goes on in the Bigfoot world. So,
yeah, okay. Well, just to throw two quick cents in there, I'm sure you guys will agree to this. I mean, knower, believer, or whatever you may be. I mean, it's healthy that we all should be skeptical towards one part of the subject or another for various good reasons, but I mean, yeah, we could be a knower where, some of us are witnesses to seeing them, knowing that they are there. But yeah, I guess this, the word skeptic or skepticism goes a long ways and actually could cover a lot of bases, I guess, but it's something I guess it's safe to say that we shouldn't be scared of, even though some of us, even, I don't know, skepticism, it could be a touchy subject with even a knower, somebody that's subjective. Somebody could be a skeptic towards you, Pat. I mean,
yeah,
but, you're a good sport. You don't let things get to you, though, So
some things do, but yeah, I mean, we did kind of touch on that. I defined skepticism, what it actually is, and pointed out that everyone's skeptical of something. But in the Bigfoot world, it comes across, that word can come across as, you're a mean person who laughed at me and said, oh, those stupid things aren't real. You're an idiot. That's sort of generally what that word seems to mean the most in the Bigfoot community. So and I just pointed out, no, that's just a closed-minded person who's kind of an asshole. So yeah,
These are the same people, though, Pat. These are the same people that believe in the invisible God. And please don't take me wrong, folks. If you have hate mail, please send it to Wes at SasquatchChronicles.com. But anyway, these are the same people that will tell you that about their invisible God that so loving and all that. But you're stupid because you think that you saw a Sasquatch, it automatically has to be a devil or something crazy like that. And that's part of what, I try to tell people, look, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I saw. I know that
Right.
what it was, but I still can't. It still bothers me. I still can't digest 100%.
Yeah, the word Bigfoot, like I would imagine, Jay, to you, the word Bigfoot or Sasquatch is almost colloquial. It's like there's no, like, it's like that's a pop culture thing almost, or but I mean they do kind of have big feet evidently, but still it's like you don't. It's hard to really name what you see when you see them. It seems like to me the proper name.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we don't look at their feet.
Just I think every situation, every sighting is different. Yeah, I'm just curious. J.O. I'm not familiar with you. Say, I do believe I'm familiar with both of you guys. I think this is the first time I've ever got to talk to you guys on a podcast.
I was friends with you. Yeah, I've met you through Chuck Slabs.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
3 years ago, maybe.
That's probably about right.
Yeah, I helped him out as best I could, as far as he had a show going for a little while and everything. I just I kind of separated from him, but I am familiar with you. I know who you are and all that stuff. My German Shepherd's being so bad, she's just bugging the crap out of me, licking my hands and shit. And I'm trying to do this.
She wants to get on camera too.
Named her after Sibylla Irwin. But yeah, it just, what happened to me and my wife is I don't want to talk about it tonight.
Yeah, we don't have to get it was it was an encounter, Daniel. It was like no doubt kind of situation.
I'm not doing well with it right now, so I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we don't want to get into all that. But
I thought I was okay, but I'm not. It came back a couple weeks ago. It's just some PTSD, and so I'm working at it. So I'm going camping next weekend. So.
Okay. I mean, that's totally understandable. I've actually spoken to quite a few people. Actually, a buddy of mine, Tracy Arnold. You guys may be familiar with him.
I know Tracy too.
Yeah, he lives approximately about 3 hours south of me. And I'm going to tell you what, he's actually, me and him shared an encounter together back in 2014, excuse me. But he had a daytime personal encounter that was very close. And I tell you what, that even though he didn't capture that on camera or nothing like that, he did start recording as soon as he walked away and was trying to work his way out the woods from where he was at. But I could tell you from his story and just the way he was talking and trying to explain what he just got done seeing, I mean, you could pretty much feel it. You could feel that what he saw. He was very detailed. I mean, but yeah, for the longest time, he didn't want to go back either. He wasn't ready to go back for a good while, but he has put a lot of time in since then. Doing little experiments and stuff, doing camera and audio traps, and he's actually produced some pretty interesting stuff there. But of course, he's been out of it for a little bit now because he works long days and long hours and everything. So I can understand that. I've been pulling some long days myself, but yeah, as far as having to see something like that and whatever, the situation was, whatever led up to it. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios for different people. So, and it's a life changer, it definitely is. So I could totally understand.
Well, I actually went back 2 weeks later. My wife and I, we went back because we wanted definitive proof of what we saw. And we looked for hairs and things like that, because they were covered in lichen. So I every place where it had charged us, lichen was all over the ground. And so I figured there would be hair in that. I collected probably about 15 pounds of lichen, but I only found one hair and then I lost it. Tried to put it in a stupid bag, so wouldn't have done me any good anyway. But yeah, it's just it's I keep going back to that area. I keep going back to that spot, or within a half a mile either way, and we still get interaction. We took a friend of mine, my best friend, and his daughter was whooping. This was just about 4 months ago. She was whooping, and I told her, whoop in your girl voice. She's 14 now. She's 15, and we were getting whoops back from the ridge above where this camp is, and they were all definitely feminine sounding. I don't know. I can't tell you, but later on, after all that, it was just me and her dad, Grant. We're up and we're talking, and then I hear twice deep whoops, male type of, I have to assume, whoops. And my German Shepherd went on complete alert also. So, and that kind of freaked my friend out a little bit, because she literally went on alert and started her aggressive bark toward that forest, because we do, that area is all dispersed camping here on Mount St. Helens. And so that was just
okay
4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, this
They're
whole
up
thing
there.
happened right up here in Mount St. Helens. So that's
Yeah.
where I live. I live in Cougar, right at the
Wow.
base of Mount St. Helens. So
See, yeah, that answers my next question. I was going to ask the location, and you answered that for me. But that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So-
up in that part of the country, man. So
Spirit
Yeah,
Mountain.
and that's where, sorry, Jay. And that's, with your story, you talk about how you're having some problems with it right now. And that's something that researchers really have to keep in mind. Like Thomas and I interviewed somebody about 2 years ago that had an encounter, and his was not an aggressive encounter or anything like that. And he was so shaken by it. And like when you said, Daniel, life-altering event, we were talking to him about a month after the fact, and he was tears welling up, voice shaking. I mean, he was totally upset. And one of the parts that really upset him is the sighting he had was not far from where his parents had 5 acres, and he used to spend a lot of time at his parents' place. And this gentleman was in his 40s. He spent a lot of time at his parents' place, had a bedroom there. He had trail cameras in the backyard, taking pictures of all the different wildlife. And he was concerned that he didn't think he was going to be able to sleep at his parents' place anymore, and that he certainly wasn't going into the backyard to look at trail cameras because of what he saw 10 minutes down the road. So, whether or not Sasquatch exist is absolutely irrelevant to when you have somebody that's upset with the sighting, that's that life altering. You have to treat them with respect, and you don't want to push buttons on them that could make them more upset. And
agreed. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. And I'm curious, Bill, about a couple of things. So I do want to pick your brain for a minute about some of this. Is that I don't know, how does that affect your thought process? When you take into consideration, and I'm not sure how many times you said you and Thomas interviewed this particular gentleman.
That's correct.
And I'm not sure how many times have you done that with Thomas, roughly?
Not a lot.
Okay.
The last couple of years, with COVID, we haven't had a lot of reports, and we have had reports. They've been telephone interviews, that sort of thing. This one was, a face-to-face interview, probably 5 minutes down the road from where he had the encounter. I've had, I don't know, you'd count my interviews in the dozens where Thomas is in the hundreds.
Yes, and I'm just curious how does that affect your thought process? When you're fully admitting, like, wow, this is like a very a real reaction to an anecdotal account. I mean, how compelling is that to you on any kind of scale? Not just that one, but if 5 people did that or 100 people did that.
I think for myself, because I've seen people with similar reactions with that claim to have had demonic encounters and things like that. I mean, right? So, do I believe that they believe they saw a Sasquatch in most of those cases? Yes. Do I believe in many cases there's an alternate explanation? I mean, there's one that Thomas did, and he actually with another member of our small group. That now the woman wasn't that upset, but she was clearly believed that she saw a Sasquatch. And however, Thomas was on site 24 and a half hours after she had her sighting. And when you look at in that particular investigation, she was seeing facial expressions and things like that was physically impossible to see at the distances that she claimed that the sighting was from. And in her case, it was very, very easy to determine the distance because she was standing on a small wharf, and the Sasquatch, or what she couldn't be Sasquatch, did a right turn on a T intersection of 2 trails that had a branch. So because you had those 2 fixed points, we knew exactly how far the distance was. And unless she had binoculars, it was just impossible for a human to see what she claimed to have seen. And then we also she had took one picture with an iPhone 5S camera. When we recreated the pictures using Thomas and then Brad, and I shouldn't say we, when they did it, the picture the figure in her picture was slightly shorter than Thomas or Brad. So we're talking under 5'9". And she was very adamant that it was a Sasquatch. Her boyfriend that was beside her on the wharf claimed he didn't see anything. Right. And when we looked at everything, it's pretty apparent in all likelihood she did not see a Sasquatch. And even when Thomas originally interviewed her over the phone on the Saturday night at 6 p.m., the details that she had between 6 p.m. and 10:30 a.m. the next morning increased a whole hell of a lot. So, just belief is not a great thing, other than I will say that when you have somebody that's visibly upset like that gentleman was, you're being a human being, like you don't like seeing somebody in that position, so you are automatically feeling for them.
Right. Sympathy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where it does get hard, because you have to, at least in my opinion, that's one of the things you look at. How are they, when you're looking at the behavior, because we can't tell somebody's attitude. I mean, that's internal. You can only see their behavior. So, part of what you're doing is you're looking at the behavior, seeing if that seems to go along with what they're saying. It's just one of the things that you tee up on.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, but
no,
you are.
I mean that's your answer. So you are.
It was hard. It was hard for me, Bill. It was hard for me to. I had to go to work. this happened on a Friday. I had to go to work Monday, and I was a what they call a PIC at that time, person in charge, running a robot, and I had somebody underneath me, and so here I am. I can't get this out of my mind. I can't sleep. I can't think of anything. I just can't. I can't eat. I can't none of this, and here I am having to be this person at work and trying, and I'd put my welding hood down and I'd just start bawling. It just because I thought my wife was going to be murdered right in front of me by one of these things, and it's just that just still bugs the fuck out of me. That I felt like I failed, and oh, excuse me for the language.
It's okay. It's all right. We drop F-bombs occasionally on the show.
So here I was, feeling like almost like a failure of some sort, and she's always assured me that I literally waited for her to get into the car before I stayed outside, with the gun drawn, but I don't remember that. It was very traumatic for me.
And that's the thing is, and that's in our nature, that protective nature, especially in my opinion, if you're a strong person with a strong protective instinct, you get in a situation like that, even when you do everything absolutely correct, you'll be second guessing yourself until the end of time.
Yeah, I still do.
And that's where, because I know, like with myself, I've been told many times I'm harder on myself than other people are, than I should be, right? So, and I know it's hard, but listen to your wife. If she's reassuring you and saying like you did everything right or everything within your power, try to take it to heart. I mean,
yeah, I agree. You're lucky to have that insight.
Yeah. I know the gentleman that we interviewed. I mean, on Compound, and I don't know if this is a stressor on you as well. Is he's in a professional position in an office building, and and as much as he was scared of Sasquatch, he's just as scared of it coming out that he had a Sasquatch sighting and what that would do to his reputation.
Yeah.
And I don't, I can't say I can relate to it. I think I can understand it because myself, I'm different. I've told people for decades what I do, and I'm in a professional position as well, and I get laughed at, and people make jokes at me about doing it, but I don't care, right? And it's what I do. It's something that I like doing, and like I tell them, if it does nothing more than get me outside and get some exercise, then I haven't wasted it. But in his position, he was concerned that it would ruin his reputation, and you have to feel for people like that because if you have that position, like Jay, you can talk to your wife, and you also, what's great about it, your wife was there, so you can talk to each other, understand each other, and support it. This guy was by himself, and the three of us that interviewed him were probably, aside from his parent, or he actually hadn't told his parents yet, were probably the only three people he had told, and it's highly unlikely he's told more than maybe his parents. And that's, I find that sad because it affected him that badly, and he doesn't have an outlet to try to help him.
There is nobody. There is Leon's been there as a good friend. We've never spent enough time like outside of a show or something like that, but he's been there for me if I need him. We talk about this, my wife and I still. Now this happened a little over 4 years ago, 2016, and we talk about this 3, maybe 4 days a week. We talk about this still, just trying to figure out what did we do wrong, or and I do know that part of it is my fault for trying to do the stupid call that it did to me, a month previous. I firmly believe that shouldn't be calling and all the other stupid shit you see on these shows. They're going to get somebody killed if they haven't already.
Well, the thing is,
I seriously,
it's only stupid if you knew that ahead of time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when people are telling you this is the accepted practice, and you think, hey, this is what quote unquote normal researchers do, and you go and replicate it, that's not being stupid. Now, if you, from your experience, now believe that that was a mistake and that could cost you, well, then it would probably could be said, you're stupid if you do it again. But, we all make mistakes, and the secret is you learn from them.
Right,
and,
right.
And again, I think that's where us as researchers, whether you're a skeptic, a knower, a believer, or wherever you fall on that continuum, is part of what we have to do is try to support people that have had a sighting, and whatever limited help we could do is try to give it to them. I mean, it's just, I'm not saying that we go sit around a fire and go kumbaya or whatever it is, but if
let's all hug each other.
Yeah, but by the same time, if when that gentleman was telling us the story, if we were absolutely robots talking to him and not giving him some just decent human reassurances and feedback, then we shouldn't be doing what we're doing. Even when you're doing the science, we're not lab rats. People aren't lab rats. We shouldn't be treating them like that. You can do a scientific or an investigative process on somebody and still remain human and have those basic decent level of decency. And for what it's worth,
I agree.
I think you got balls of brass because you're going back into the same area and continue looking.
We're going this coming weekend. We just bought a brand new tent, and we're going back. Just last year it was great. Had my grandkids up there with me, my grandsons, and like 2:00 in the morning there was an owl, and then a fake owl, and then a raven. A raven doesn't make any noise during the night, not at 2:00 in the morning. And then, the owl. I bought the owl, but it woke all of us up, and we're dispersed camping in this exact spot, and you hear the hoo 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 like that, and then you hear a hoo 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 like that, and then you hear a from just like that from owl, fake owl, raven, just like that, but it was loud. I mean loud, and it woke. I had to answer so many questions with my grandsons the next day, try to keep them cool. Because it woke everybody up. So,
but you see, and this is where you've learned, right? You said the aggressive encounter you had was because you did a call of some sort that you had heard the month before.
Yep.
Did you do that call again?
I'll never do it again.
Were the results different?
No, because the only person that has that call is Daniela. I made it special for her, and I told her, you can share it privately with people, but it can't be because I live right here. The forest I live in a motorhome, my wife and I, and a German Shepherd, and the forest is right here. And then our research area is just 9 miles up. So I will not do that. I've been asked to do it. I won't do it. I was in town at my son's house when I privately recorded what that call sounded like. And then I sent it to Daniela, and I won't do it here. There's no way I'm going to do it here. It scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to do it, knowing that I live in the forest. I'm not doing it.
And that just shows you're learning. You had an instance where you had a negative response, and you're still researching. And like I said, balls of brass. You're out there, you're still doing it in the same area, and you've changed your techniques to try to be safer.
I just camp now. And these are things that I've learned from people like Paul Graves, some other pretty good researchers, in my opinion, and that is act like human beings act. Just go camp and have fun. Be human beings out there and let your kids have fun and all that. And that will bring them in. That will literally, and I believe just me being out there by myself that night, I had a fire going. I was at a real great peace of mind for the first encounter. Although I still feel like that was aggressive too. I don't know. I've had people tell me, oh, well, you gain their respect and all that. And, and then the tree they brought down and looked like an A. Well, that's telling you welcome. I'm like, I don't know. Where do you guys get this shit? Because I didn't feel welcome by anybody. If that's how you're going to welcome me. Then
when people tell you stuff like that.
If you hate somebody, geez, that's part of what's wrong in this community also is, you got these guys that, oh yeah, that particular glyph means this and this particular glyph means that. And, oh, so you got a correspondence with them? Oh, great.
Yeah, that's what gets me too. Cause there's some people that tell me that too. And don't get me wrong, these are nice people. They're, but the thing is, I sometimes I'll question them back. These are people I've known for a while and, but yeah, you want to like figure out like what makes them think this, there's no evidence that supports what they're saying. Even though, and some of these are the same ones that say there's no experts in this field, but yet they're going to come out and tell you what something is, it's kind of mind blowing, but sometimes you have to just laugh at it basically. Yeah. But yeah, it's a couple things you mentioned as far as going out there, just enjoying yourself. Yeah, that's what I tell people when I do have groups that come out camping with me. Yeah, we'll hike during the day. We'll explore to see if we can find things. At nighttime, mainly in that general area where I camp at, where I've had my encounters or any other miscellaneous experiences, I tell people just sit here, enjoy yourself at camp at night, sit, talk, BS around the fire, and just try to pay attention. I said, you're going to hear things out here. Like you mentioned, you got owls out your way. We got the barred owls here in Virginia, and yeah, sometimes you'll hear them very close to you. And, they make very different vocals out here. Some of them, if you're not familiar with them, they will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up because they do some wild, freakish sounds, you just got to be familiar with them, but yeah, as far as hearing things, experiencing things, most of it at nighttime is just from sitting and chilling, and hanging out, relaxing in that camp. A lot of people like to go gushing through the woods or explore through. I like doing that. That is fun if you got a couple people to, but you're basically entering into their territory because, in my opinion, this is just my opinion.
I agree with you,
go ahead.
Daniel, because look, you're gonna go walking through the forest looking for the master of the forest. It cracks me up, these guys and these shows with that. Well, wait a minute, isn't this what you're supposed to be looking for? And it's always an owl or a bat or something, like the ghost hunter shows too.
Yeah.
I don't watch anything. Let's put it this way, like this newest show that's going on right now with Russell and all those guys. Look, it would be breaking news already. The season's already been shot. They're probably shooting another one right now. So, guys, wake up. It would be breaking news. It'd be all over everywhere. So get ready for another season of nothing. You might as well get a skeleton to sit and watch this stupidity that people get addicted to on TV.
I've told people the same thing about the. I might get some hate on this one because
Curious Expedition bullshit.
But what's the other one? The project with Melba Ketchum. Because when I get in conversations or I jump in on a conversation of a post, you get people that jump in. Well, Bigfoot's already been proven. We already have DNA. I said, no, we don't. I said, I tell them the same thing you just told me. Yeah, if that was legit, if that was proven, wouldn't that be big news and that the whole world would know, hey, Sasquatch truly does exist? I mean, it would be put out in public, Yeah, we know we've seen something, but as far as a public notification, I mean, You know, I try not to. I can get into details on that project, whatever, because you know a lot of us know. You know, but
yeah, that's not a thing.
Do you
yeah, that's a
remember-
whole nother thing.
Do you remember when they actually had their? Me and Leon have talked about this because it's kind of weird, you know. I mean, it wasn't until Daniela had introduced me to someone that destroyed that whole project. Okay, but I was a fan of Melba, and I as a friend goes, I love Melba, but if you watch that news conference, that breaking news conference they had there in Texas when it was
Yeah.
a shit show. It was the most unprofessional, and I thought I was excited. I was out of my mind excited. I was like, "Oh man, this is the greatest thing ever!" And then I just watched this shit show unfold. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Are you referring to the one that involved the Olympic project? Was that part of them?
No. The Olympic
Because there was a couple
project
different
had
ones.
nothing to do with her.
Okay. There was maybe I'm getting the wrong name.
No,
mixed up.
she held a news conference. No, she held a news conference in Texas when the results supposedly came back and all that, and
Okay.
she's carrying this bone that's like 4 feet long and it's supposed to be some arm bone of some giant or some shit that David Paulides gave her, and you had a lot of people on this panel, and Erickson was there, and a lot of other people, and oh man, half the people that were supposed to be there, it was a shit show. It was terrible.
Yeah. That's what I was getting mixed up. The Erickson project. Yeah, not the. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I got too many things in my head. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and
I did not call the Raptor. I did not call any authorities. I was so afraid. I wanted my wife to drive us when we came down off the mountain into Cougar. I wanted to report that there was a very aggressive Sasquatch, and I just thought they're gonna laugh. They're gonna laugh right in my face.
Do that?
And I thought, well, I want to storm into the Rangers office, and I wanted to demand, you know, that they get up there, you know, and I just, something kept telling, don't do it.
It's not worth it.
And so I didn't. All these people here in this little town know me now. I've been a part of this community now for 3 years, and they know I'm the guy to go to for Sasquatch, or if you want to talk about it or whatever.
Oh man.
Jay, where'd you go, man?
Oh man, I did not see that coming.
Maybe Sasquatch came for a visit.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, that wasn't me. That was him. It's something cut out there.
If he's up there in the woods, it's probably his signal. So
he's coming back.
Yeah.
He's in a remote area, or he was coming back. Go ahead.
Bill, there's one thing you mentioned a little earlier. I'm jotted down a note so I wouldn't forget it. I thought it was interesting. I wanted to bring up in one of the interviews you were referring to with the lady. I believe it was the lady. She said like between her details increased between 6 to 10 a.m. Was that? Yeah, that was the next morning, right?
Yeah, well, she originally talked to Thomas. Like her sighting was Saturday 10 a.m. Saturday at 6 p.m. approximately, she was on the phone with Thomas and did an interview with Thomas. Then 10:30 a.m. Sunday, Thomas and Brad, another one of our group, met her at the site and interviewed her, and that's how they were able to replicate the picture. She was able to show exactly on the little dock where she was standing and show exactly the T intersection trail, because it was in a little municipal campground. So it was a maintained trail that had a T intersection, so they knew exactly where they were standing. And incidentally, when she was interviewed for Finding Bigfoot, because Thomas did give them a bunch of the witnesses, of course, Matt confirmed her belief that she definitely saw a Sasquatch. But I can tell you from the photo I saw, now it was a blob squatch, but from the photo she took, it looked to me like somebody that was wearing a 9 Inch Nails hoodie. I'm not sure if you know what the symbol of 9 Inch Nails is on the front. That's what it looked. Yeah, it was still blurry.
Oh, you're saying you could actually see the logo?
No, but just the way, maybe it's pareidolia on my part that I saw it. But,
fair enough.
As I said, when they recreated the photos, because there was a tree branch by there, the subject matter looked to be shorter than Thomas or Brad when they walked. Did the exact the photo from the same position on the wharf and the same part of the trail.
Which brings up an interesting point, if I may. Which kind of ties back into that documentary we were talking about on Hulu, called Sasquatch, which is a fascinating story, I think. But it ties back in. Spoiler warning. All right, anybody that hasn't seen the documentary Sasquatch?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so then you're about to get it spoiled.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, you're a guest. I can remove you from the stream.
No, go ahead. There's been a lot of things I haven't seen. I've always been told about, and I'll end up seeing them down the road. But yeah, I don't have Hulu, so.
I'm curious, Bill, and even Jay, or even you, Daniel, because hell, you guys probably spend more time in the woods than I do. The sort of the factor, and of course, Bill and Jay, you know what I'm talking about. The factor of any kind of protection of your goods out in the woods that you would try and scare people away in some capacity. I'm not even saying dress up in the Bigfoot costume. Bill's talking about, maybe a guy in a hoodie. I don't know. Is that a thing, you think?
Well, I think it'd be.
I think in his case, he was just simply walking down the trail. Like I said, it's in a little municipal campground, and I think it was just a clear case of mistaken identity and why she would, would go from, because Thomas and Brad also interviewed the manager of the little camp and some other people that were around, and nobody saw anything. And this is 10 a.m. in a little, on a trail in a little municipal campground on a nice sunny day. I mean, is that really the situation where you're going to have a Sasquatch walk down the street or down the trail?
Unlikely.
With an active camp right there, you'd be an idiot up where I live to walk around in a fursuit. You'd be completely out of your mind if you did that. And I noticed another thing about, I remember the old Finding Bigfoot. And there's a place up here, not up here, but a place that my wife and I have gone also called Marble Mountain. And it's somebody took a picture of a man in a backpack with a stocking cap on. That's obviously what it is. From one ridge to another in the snow. And these guys went off, the Bigfoot guys, Cliff and all those guys were all, that's a Squatch. I've been there before, blah, blah. You know that this is a big tourist attraction. This is a place where people go all year long. People go in the snow. People ride their bikes up there. Kids go up there. There was nothing deadly and dangerous about going to Marble Mountain or any of that. And so that just got, dressing up. And here's another thing. The whole time they're talking to those guys, they're all in their winter gear and they all have their stocking caps on, which gives them all that dome head looking thing.
Yeah.
Like you were describing there with just like, it's a man with a backpack over there, probably hiked up there or whatever, just because it's snowing. This is Pacific Northwest where I live in. People do things in the snow here. Yeah.
Well, we
they
had
do
the
things
same
in the
thing.
snow.
We had the same thing at Hoover Lake about 4 years ago. We had a there was a local company called Legend Tracker that was making an app that if you put it on your phone and you took a picture in an area, it would give you a picture of like sort of like a Pokemon Go type thing, but with cryptids and legends. And they were talking about how they were going to put Mission on the map, and then they bought a suit, a Sasquatch suit from the same guys that made the suit for Harrison Hot Springs for their Sasquatch days. And they're the ones that did the video that's like a Jane Goodall type video where you've got the Sasquatch and you got a busload of tourists out of the bus taking photos of this thing sitting there for 5 minutes. Anyways, one of the videos they did was at Hoover Lake. And when it originally hit the news, and it was supposed to be an anonymous video, when it originally hit the news, a guy came forward, and his name was Brandon Pollock. He came forward and said, "That was me. I was camping there. He said I was camping across the lake. I just taken my boat across to the little peninsula and was looking for firewood. If they would have kept the camera on me for another minute and a half, 2 minutes, they would have saw me getting back into the boat." And I don't know if you guys have heard of Bigfoot Tony, who's a guy in
yeah. Oh yeah. He's got a YouTube channel. Yeah.
He did a analysis on it, and I went on there and provided the links to what Legend Tracker had said in the news, provided links to some of their other videos, like where they have a Sasquatch driving a car down the road, all this stuff where we had interviewed and Braden, or Brandon, I should say. I mean, he's a big guy. He's about 6'5", and he works in the oil fields in northern BC. And he just happened he was down on his time out of the away from camp. And when he reported it on the CBC website that it was, or the local news site, that it was him, he had people attacking him, calling him a hoaxer, and that no, it wasn't. It was a real Sasquatch, and he was faking it, blah, blah, blah. And he just said, "You know what? You guys are effing nuts. I got nothing to do with you." And the only reason that Thomas was able to interview him is because we had a mutual friend that actually was telling us, heard us talking about the event. And she said, "Hey, I know the guy. It's a friend of mine's fiance." So we were able to interview him. And, he was absolutely, had no use for the Sasquatch crowd, because he said, telling them the truth, and they're telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. On Bigfoot Tony's, I tried for 2 years on the one thread to explain to people why it was not a real sighting. And I got called, basically, I don't know how many times I got called a liar, but in polite words, disinformation agent, people saying things like, "Oh, you can tell it's massive." How can you tell it's massive? You've got trees in the background. You don't know if those trees are 8-inch diameter, 12-inch diameter, 16-inch diameter. What are you using to judge size? Yeah. And finally, I have to admit, after 2 years, and I don't know how many times I got basically called a liar, I called somebody a moron and got off the channel. And I regret saying that, because, I don't, but just, I'd had it up to here with how many times being basically called a liar. And, it can get frustrating, because we have to take the wheat from the chaff. I mean, I was arguing with a guy on Bigfoot forums, and that's how actually I met Thomas about 10, 12 years ago, was arguing over a very famous hoax we had in the Mission area. And, there's a guy up in Alaska that absolutely says that, those kids that, when I say kids, they were late teens, early 20s, that had the gorilla suit and all this other stuff. Oh, they were actually hoaxing. The bus load of people actually saw a Sasquatch, and they just decided to pretend it was them. Like, you gotta be out there to believe that.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the overall community. Everybody in it that's involved in watching and paying attention, even the non-researchers, the ones that just sit back that want to believe everything that's put out there, they're not objective. Everything's got to be Bigfoot to them. They just accept everything without giving any, objectivity. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just, people just want to believe something nowadays. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's safe to say, because, based off of our encounters or sightings that we've had, yes, they do exist. But to see everything that's put on the internet, I mean, a lot of it's very obvious hoaxing. Some of them, I've seen the same pictures posted from one location. People keep resharing stuff saying, hey, look, I took this picture in my yard. I said, no, that came from over here. I mean, there's some, like Pat wanted to use he was going to send me some pictures for reverse image search. That's how I found the truth about a lot of images. But, find out their original locations, where they originated from, what they are. Which I love that. Reverse image search is a very useful tool. It's an app you could download on your phone. But the picture needs to be like what I told Pat. I know he sent me a couple of things that were little distorted and blurry. It's got to be something clear. It could be a little blurry, but not like a blob squatch, if that makes any sense. Because the app needs to be able to pick it up or register it, or it's just going to show you something else that's closely related to whatever you're trying to search for. But again, most of the stuff I've researched on reverse image search, it'll actually reveal quite a bit. It does this. It's been a helpful tool, but yeah, you'll be surprised. I'm sure you guys seen a lot of it floating around over the years on social media, different things that, there's so many newbies involved. They want to play the hoax game too, because they're just trolls in these groups just having fun with the real believers and knowers. But it ruins it for everybody else.
What do you guys think? Why do you think that hoaxing is so prevalent in this field? It bothers me. It drives me so fucking out of my mind. Why is it so important for someone? And they're so defensive. They get so out of their mind defensive when you bust them. What is it? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, in my opinion, it's money. Hoaxing can be monetized. Trolling. A lot of people like to actually troll the Bigfoot community and sort of force feed them something to gobble up. I've seen a lot of that. So those are two real big ones right there. I mean, it could just be attention.
Exactly. That was one of my topics. Yeah.
Yeah. So attention.
Attention seekers.
Yeah. And so I mean, those are three huge reasons just right there, Jay, why people do hoax. And
yeah, I mean,
and
look at some of these larger channels
full of hoaxes. It's ripe with hoaxes. I'd say the anecdotal side of it is actually very low in hoaxes. But the Bigfoot online community, anything visual, anything audio, anything, like content related that's lengthy, all of that is just hoaxes or finding tracks. I hate to even say, because people do find tracks. People will find tracks. We should be finding tracks, but a lot of that stuff, freaking hoax too, man.
And you look at some of the larger channels, if they've got like some of these channels that have hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube, and they're getting views in the hundreds of thousands and millions, they're making a pretty good living. Off of the revenue. And there's some, at least one BC guy here that's very controversial. And his channel blew up with Sasquatch related things, about the same time. He was a part of what he did was he was a grizzly hunting guide.
Yeah.
BC shut down grizzly hunting. Next thing you know, his channel is going more and more towards Sasquatch related, and I'll bet you he's making more money off of his Sasquatch channel than he ever did off of grizzly hunting. And you know, I was on a hunting forum for at least a dozen years that he was on, and I sort of watched the evolution because he's been a believer for a long time with claimed sightings. But I saw, you know, an evolution of how he had talked for years, and then all of a sudden, boom! The rocket launched, and he went out of the stratosphere.
He did.
Is this the guy that reads the emails? And
Yes,
Yep.
Steve
and he's here to protect us. Let me tell you something. I got one of my closest friends really likes this guy, and one thing I want everybody to know is I don't want you, if you're my friend, I don't want you to believe like I believe. I don't want you to, just because I don't like this guy or respect this guy. Look, it's up to you to make up your own mind.
Yep.
So don't follow me and don't put your money in my bank, okay? Because you need to have your own opinions and things like that. But I'm going to tell you something about this guy, all right? He says, as he tells you every week or every other day, he's reading one of these fucking emails, is, I didn't ask you to come to my site. I don't need you at my site. So, you know, I didn't ask for anybody to begin with. So why do you have a site then? Okay. And then it's, I'm here to protect you. What the fuck are you going to do to protect me? Nobody protected me. You're reading emails, you son of a bitch. So, you know, what the hell, you know, and that really makes me mad to stand up there. And then he goes, and I know where they're at. I could take you to them tomorrow. Well, why are you standing there reading emails? You could solve the whole thing tomorrow, asshole. You know, that's where I'm pissed off about this guy. And then he says, calling Dr. Meldum like he knows him. He backs this theory that Bob Gimlin and his partner slaughtered, or the Canadian kill team slaughtered Patty and her whole family.
Yeah.
You know, it just, he's got me so angry. And this is why I don't like this guy. He says, I don't do these gigs that you see Meldrum and all these guys. So David Pilatus offers him a spot and he takes it. So he's a fucking liar. All right. You guys that are following this guy, you need to know he's a nobody, and you're making him rich by watching him. He's a nobody.
My feelings aren't as deep as yours, Jay, obviously, but you know, I hadn't had the experience you did. But what I don't watch him because I refuse to watch those channels, because every time you watch them, it kicks money towards them, and I refuse to watch him. And I stopped watching him when he was accusing John Green's father of being part of a genocide of Japanese Canadians, and you know, calling out John Green. You know, John Green has passed away, and you know, saying all these horrible things about John Green. That did it for me. If you're attacking the dead, somebody that can't defend themselves, I just don't have any time for it, and I don't know if he still has those videos up. But I won't watch him, and I won't anyone like that. I know some people like watching him because then you can get to see what they're saying and try to combat it. But for me, it's just not worth my time. When somebody's that far out there making the money he's making off YouTube, there's nothing I'm going to say on his channel that's going to change anybody's mind. And if you do, he's just going to block it, delete it. He
insults you, and then it's he's here to protect you. But first, I'm going to insult you to start every show. Then I'm here to protect you. And then you're exactly right. What he had to say about John Green, I just don't understand the disrespect people will do with dead researchers. I based this on such and such told me this and that. Well, this person's been dead for years. How can you, it doesn't make sense to me, but I have no respect for this guy. If he's your hero because he reads and he's going to protect you, please. Another thing, send me an email and tell me how he's going to protect me and how he's going to protect you by standing with a beautiful backdrop with his mouth and reading these freaking stories. That's, you know, guys, after what happened to me and my wife, I fucking hate this shit. This Bigfoot world and all their fucking heroes and shit, because there aren't any, and there's no good shows. There's nothing, you know. I'm sorry about that.
So you're around the same age as I am, I think. Do you remember the old actor Robert Blake?
Oh
He
yeah.
used to play Beretta.
Oh yeah.
One of the sticks that he used to use, I don't know if you remember, but whenever he made a new movie, you knew that he was going to get on the talk show circuit and badmouth the movie, whether he be badmouthing the directors but he did it to install controversy and interest in the movies, and more people went to see it because they wanted to see why he was mad about it or didn't like about it. And that's the same thing as what, you know, he does with his channel when he's saying, I don't care, or I'm, you know, doing it. He says
What
the
will he
same
say
thing
next?
every time.
Yeah.
And people buy this. Well, look at that. He's a real hard ass, and you know, he's sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
What man? You know, who's he sticking it to? You know, like.
Well, I mean, I understand that. I mean, in a way, it could be interpreted as brilliant, because
For marketing, yes, it is. There's no interpreting from a marketing standpoint. Very, very smart man.
Yeah, I mean, what will he say next? So he's kind of like Howard Stern in that way. If you know, you remember how Howard Stern grew his career was based on one thing and one thing only. What will this guy say next? Whether you loved him or hated him, you know.
It was like Morton Downey Jr. before him. You know, people used to watch him just to see what was next.
Yeah. So I mean, again, that, you know, that almost falls into the, you know, entertainment category. Is really all that Steve offers. I think is that it's another form of entertainment, especially given the fact that he settled into this. You know, he'll do his diatribe and then he'll read emails, which anybody could send. Anybody could write out eloquently with a thought process. They're not there to actually, you know, have any kind of inflection in their voice while they're talking, you know, like you might find on Chronicles or whatever, you know.
But with that, and sorry to interrupt, but you know, he's trying to present it as real and factual. And that, you know, the flip side, I don't know if anyone here listens to Dixie Cryptid, and it's a gentleman that he reads the same idea. He reads stories that people sent them, emails, and sometimes if he knows that the person's doing a made up story, he'll say it. But in his case, he'll tell you that he's not a researcher. He has no idea if the story's true or not. He just enjoys reading them. And people that listen to him just enjoy it. And I actually listen to him quite often, just because I enjoy listening to the stories. But I can respect somebody that says, I'm not investigating them. I'm not telling you if they're real or not. I just like doing this. Hey, that's honesty. You want to do that? Have at her, because I think, like I said, I enjoy them. I subscribe.
Yeah. With that being said, with what you just talked about, when people, there's a lot of those kind of YouTube channels too, and I have a lot of respect for those people, because a lot of people got to understand, when you hear these secondhand stories, sometimes they're third party stories, but most of the time they're secondhand stories where the story, like, you know, stories are passed on to whoever's going to be hosting that podcast. I had a real good friend who did real great. He narrated, he got all the details of every story and every encounter, you know, and he went forth, he did an audio YouTube video, and where he told it like it was, but he put it in his own, I don't know what's the right way to put it, but he put it in his own way, and it was great. He did real great with it. And But but there's a lot of others out there. There's new ones that are just starting out doing that same thing, and I think they're doing good with it. But the people got to learn to, like you said, if don't hate on them. If you're either gonna not like it, or you're gonna enjoy it. If you don't like it, just move on. But
people love spooky stories. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to diminish anybody in the Bigfoot world that's had an encounter. I've got 2 of them sitting right here with me. One of them is freaking PTSD. So I'm not trying to diminish at all that the realism of what you guys personally encountered. All I'm saying is, in general, human beings love spooky stories. That's why we sit around the campfire. Even if you don't have anything to do with Sasquatch or the Sasquatch world, you'll sit around a campfire and you'll tell the youngins some kind of spooky story, right? And it keeps them from drifting off too far or whatever, right? So people just love spooky stories, and that's why the encounter thing has been turned into a form of entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Before I go camping, or even when we do some night research, before we go for a couple of weeks, I'll listen to scary dogman encounters, scary Sasquatch encounters, scary Wendigo, and because I enjoy them, and I guess part of the reason I enjoy them is because I don't believe in any of that stuff. So it doesn't affect me when I get out there, but I absolutely, other than, now I've heard so many that they're getting repetitive, but you're right. It's fun out there. And Thomas Steenberg, one of his favorite things is he's got a story called The Men Without Bones. And if you're a kid or that, that's one of the first things he's going to tell you is his story about men without bones. And in fact, Thomas, he'll readily admit it, he's a 19th century guy that's just getting into the 20th century with the internet.
I know.
And when I first set him up on Facebook, one of his longtime friends and fellow researcher, when I did a friend request for Thomas to him, the message came back. What do you always tell my kids? So as soon as he typed in Men Without Bones, the guy was like, okay, you're Thomas.
Dude, if you will indulge me, Bill, for just a minute.
Go ahead.
Like back in March was my birthday. It was a Friday night, and I'd been working all week, whatever. I was exhausted. I'd been working. I was exhausted. It was my freaking birthday. And I'm like literally laying on the floor in there in my work clothes still, just like, like a zombie. And I had my computer pulled up and it comes up Thomas Steenberg video call on Facebook. And I'm like, what? Like, I thought it was a joke, I'm like, oh, I gotta check this. I wasn't gonna do a podcast. I wanted to do a podcast that night, but I wasn't gonna do it. I was exhausted. I pulled it up and there's Thomas. And there he is. He's like, oh wow, I didn't know this worked. I wanted to wish you a happy birthday, Pat. And I was like, what? Like, it blew my mind. He's like, this is like Star Trek, except better. I'm sorry, Thomas. I hope I'm not embarrassing you. Like, that was a personal moment that happened between us. And
yesterday was his birthday, so you can wish him a happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, yeah.
And he wished me a happy birthday on my birthday. Now I have to wish him a belated happy birthday. So I apologize for that, Thomas. But yeah, he was totally blown away. And so what that led to, I was like, it reinvigorated me. I was like, okay, I was like, hey, you want to be on the show tonight? And so we ended up doing the show that night, and Thomas was on it, and my a couple of other people were like, it's my Pat's birthday bash show ended up happening because of Thomas. If he'd have never like, I don't think he meant to video call me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So if he'd have never like hit that button and done that, like that show would have never happened. I would have just passed out on my floor that night. I was so exhausted.
Thomas said that from now on he's going to count backwards. I saw that today. He's happy birthday too, Thomas. Yesterday was my wife's birthday too.
Yes.
Tell her happy birthday from all us.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Birch.
As Mrs. Bigfoot Barbecue, as she appears on my channel, Mrs. Barbecue.
It's funny, Pat, in a roundabout way, I'm on here because Thomas is not very good with technology. And I'm saying this knowing full well that Thomas is on here. And Thomas, I'm a good friend with Thomas's, and he knows I'm the type of guy that I'll dish you to your face and, protect you behind your back. That's the way I am.
Right.
But the first time he showed up on Daniela's show is his computer had crashed. So I lent him my spare laptop. Well, about a half hour before he was to go on, he phones me and my spare laptop died on him. So I take my laptop, run down to his place. He only lives 5-10 minutes away from me. Run down to his place with my laptop, get it set up so we can do the show. Then I take the laptop that he was borrowing, and I'm working on it from his other desk, trying to get it going. And of course, 5 minutes after the show is over, that's when it starts working. I get it working again. But after the conversation, when we got shut down, we just started talking. And then, because I was talking with Daniela, that's where she invited me on her show. And as I said, this is the third show I've been on, but really Thomas is to blame for it because of his technical knowledge.
Well, we met you, Bill, that night. I was co-host that night. I work with Daniela. I'm not currently working with her, but I have no, she's a sister for me. But that we met you after the show, and God, we must have spent another hour just talking to you and Tom before you came back on the show when we had another show with you. And then did the after show. And I thought the after show was a better show because we didn't have so much hate in the chat in the after show as we did. I'm still just taken aback with the hatred from some of the.
I agree. Now, see,
your names in Sasquatch.
In one of those shows, I was involved.
That was the after show.
I was
the
there.
Show, yeah.
So maybe, I popped in on the after show. And I'd watched the show, and I remember I was fascinated. Like everything Bill was saying was like making me go boing, boing, boing. Like, yes. Like I loved the speech, the narrative, and because it was so different and refreshing. And so I came into the after show and then, boy, we had a time there. But you know what? I think the after show was that was one of the ones that was aired, because I remember being on air with Bill. So I think we aired that after show.
Yeah, because that's what they started doing is they started doing an after show that was on air.
Yeah,
I believe he was our first after show. I believe. We only did 3. I think 3, maybe 4. I think we did 3. Shelly Covington, Montana. She didn't know that the second one was that we were actually still live with the second one because she really let her hair down in the second one. And the next day she's like, I didn't know we were doing a live show still. That's the second one. I was like, oh yeah, we were.
Well, what's funny about that first one where it wasn't aired, where I was just on there with Thomas, is the only reason that one ended is because I thought Thomas was only doing a 1 hour show. When I brought the laptop down, I didn't bring the charger. So that's what killed that conversation. It's like, oh no, I got no charger. But no, I found even like I know that Jay, you were getting quite defensive on my behalf, and I did appreciate it. Like, don't get me wrong, but again, it didn't really bother me. You know, one of my tenets are that the only people's opinions that I really care about are people I respect. And if I've never met you and I don't know you and you want to call me every name in the book, it doesn't matter. Now, if it's somebody that I know or respect says those things, well, then you got to do a gut check to, to see, where it's coming from. But, it's water off a duck's back. I mean, if you worry about what people say about you, and that's what I said in there for the people that thought that I was, and I will say that there was one point in the after hour show where I did, my phrasing wasn't the best. I said something along the lines of, even if all those people are telling the truth, and I didn't mean to intimate that they were liars. I meant to, show that, even, if all these people are truthful, then we have a phenomenon. And I didn't mean to intimate that they were lying. And some people did jump on and say,
I never took you as arrogant. I never took you as, screw you guys, you stupid people. I completely found you to be a gentleman. Everything you said was completely within reason. I was more pissed off about how Carrie Arnold was acting on Daniela's channel. And it's not my channel. I'm just a co-host, but I don't like being a co-host. I'm not good at it. I'm more of a guy that can do some roundtable type of stuff. And I'm so busy that this is just, I wanted to support Pat. So I'm doing this, but I'm telling you, and I will call out a bigger name. I just don't care about that shit. I work for a living, I don't care. I don't make any money doing this kind of stuff. But if you're going to disrespect my fucking guest, can't you be a little bigger than that? Especially if you've got your own channel and you're actually making money and all that. You're going to disrespect my guest, that hurt me. It pissed me off. And it wasn't just Carrie Arnold. And by the way, Carrie, you can kick me off your fucking site too if you want to. I don't care. So anyway, if you're going to be this way toward people, you should really.
Look at Pat.
I don't ever do it. But
well, this just goes back to the respect. I mean, we, and I know Pat did a thing on Facebook about embracing the community, or we're all the community, or whatever the hell that the phrasing was. The thing is the Sasquatch community is a community in the same sense of saying the world's a community. Yeah, there's a bunch of people that are interested in this subject, but we're very, it's very tribal. You have different groups, and there are people, and we just talked about one. There are people that I wouldn't walk across the street to talk to, right? And when you get into, I was at a small conference that was local, and I've only been to 2 of the conferences because I'm not, that's just not my thing. But there was a guy that was talking about, he was at his car and he was talking about glyphs and how Sasquatch leave glyphs. And he was talking about how he was at his car and then suddenly right there, a glyph appeared on the ground. So he didn't know if the Sasquatch was able to, suspend time or hypnotize him so they didn't notice it or whatever. Well, you know what? Okay, I'm a skeptic, but on that's screw it. I'm not even going down that road. That's absolute garbage to me, and I've got no interest in that. And there are some local hoaxers that I won't. Thomas caught a local guy with him and 3 members of the BFRO caught a guy hoaxing. The guy's still around, and every once in a while he tries to troll Thomas's channel. But I've got, no use to the guy. You hoaxed once, you got caught. Rather than man up and say, "Yeah, I got caught," you blame everyone else in the whole world about how they're treating you unfairly. So yeah,
right. Yeah,
if
you're hoaxing is a part of the Bigfoot community, if you will, or nation, or it's not even a nation. A nation even implies this, right? So I don't know. I call it the Bigfoot world. Naturally, I think that's the appropriate way to say it. And I lost my train of thought. Daniel, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't me, but
It was you.
Oh, okay. See, I shouldn't have come on. I could be in
later, Tater. That's what I do. The people that make me lose my train of thought on my own show. Just kidding. Me and Daniel are friends, so this is personal. All right, fine.
Pat. Oh, by the way, guys, Pat was one of my speakers at my conference coming up. You guys want to take his spot?
Dude, I was banned again. No.
I'm just joking.
Pat's got to get all these things on his arm for every time he gets banned from a. That's a badge of honor, buddy.
No. I'm not trying to. And just for the record, man, just for the record, as a person and talking about people and human interaction, I knee jerked on Carrie. I think I'll reach out to Carrie and apologize for knee jerking between he and I, just between he and I. So, my bad. I shouldn't have knee jerked on him the way I did. I admit I went into fight mode and I could be a handful when I'm in fight mode. So yeah. Anyway,
I can be a handful if I'm not in fight mode.
But you think, and again, this is where, and I'll try to choose my words carefully. Credible researchers or people that we consider credible, where we do need to support one another when things happen. Daniel, I'm not familiar with you or your website or your group, so I don't know anything about it. It appears that you're for, even though I think Jay and I have been talking over you a little bit. Throw Jay under the bus with me.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, but you haven't said a lot, but you seem to be a reasonable person, So when you're a reasonable person doing reasonable research, then if somebody's coming after you, there's no reason why people that aren't of the same mind frame don't support one another. And if
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I think we are missing that unity, and part of it is, and the internet is shrinking it down at the same time as it's making it worse. Here we've got, a guy, we've got two time zones. We're across the continent from each other. Jay's in Washington State. I'm in British Columbia. You guys are across the continent, and here we're having a chat. We can share ideas.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Agreed, and that is what Squatch Talk is all about. And as far as unity and using the word unity, it will never happen in the Bigfoot world. That's a pipe dream. Again, because of the 1,000 tribes. But if there's more unity happening on a smaller level, then that's good. I think that can yield results. And discussion is important. And that's, the whole thing I brought up was about discourse, and it didn't just get me And I'm not saying that's what happened with Kerry. Like I implied that the other night. Maybe not. I'll be fair to him. But it got me banned from another group for sure. That had like what's Daniel, the In Search Of group? Like they have like what 300,000 members or something? Or
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with it. I don't know if I'm
it's
in
the
that
one dude where like one day you posted something in comments and and I was like, hey dude, why is there 50 people an hour? I'm getting notifications for ECBRO, you know. So it's a big group. It's at least 100,000 people, if not more.
Okay, it might be called In Search of Bigfoot or Bigfoot Believers.
In Search of Bigfoot, yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, I posted my Discord thing there. It got removed. So I went back. I said, "Oh, the irony of posting something about Discord and it getting removed."
Yeah,
and then after a while, in some comments, it got removed again. I got kicked out of that group on the same night. And
I wonder who the administrators are there.
Pat's a bad boy.
Well, the thing is,
and I'm like, okay, all right, Bigfoot world, and I'll say this to you now, like every single sub watching, all my subs, or anybody who's watching that's not a sub, that's thinking about being a sub, Discord is something else. Discourse is important, no matter what. If we're talking about taxation, if we're talking about the economy, if we're talking about, your freaking grocery list with your significant other for that week's budget. Even in the Bigfoot world, discourse is important, and that's what I do here. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now and just say to the people watching now and anybody watching in the future, sub or not a sub, that's what we do here. Discourse.
Right. You see how people seem to be upset because we want to be critical thinkers in this, and I think that probably the best critical thinkers are your people like Bill, and I am so critical when it comes to thinking of Bigfoot and hearing a story or any of that. I can usually sniff out bullshit within the first 4 or 5 seconds of someone starting to tell a story. It's and it makes everybody mad. It makes people so upset. If you're a critical thinker, that seems to be the newest hate thing in the Bigfoot community is let's hate the critical thinker. Now I'm not talking about the criticizing thinker. I'm talking about the critical thinker who says, how could it be a 10-foot stride? How could it be 12 or 13? There comes a point where it no longer can be that tall, that 2,000 pounds, bipedal. It just, at some point, you have to come right back down to earth. And this is the problem. This is why we have so many skeptics too, is the crap that people want to present to you. And look, I've everybody's caught a fish like this, right? Have we not all caught a fish like that? But it was really, I mean, come on. This is what happens is, and another thing is when you're frightened or something happens real quick, things can tend to look bigger or smaller than they really are also. And so exactly. I think that I don't think so much that there's some over exaggeration as there is a fear has taken over, or excitement has taken over what's happening to you at that particular moment. Because we cannot realistically, you can't. I remember Will Jevning saying that this thing was all of 8 feet and 800 pounds. Now, if this is a bipedal creature. What I saw was probably 400, maybe. But think about that. That's 100 pounds a foot. So you're talking 8 feet tall, 100 pounds a foot. It would be so beyond obese. It doesn't work. It can't work. Now, 300, 350 pounds, 400 pounds, possibly if it's 8 feet tall, but it'd be very, very lean. We have to put math into this. We have to put critical thinking into this. We have to look at bipedal things. Look at the mountain gorilla, like the very tallest one I think on record is like 6 foot, 6.5 feet, and that's 500 pounds, and that just gigantic looking, beautiful, beautiful animal. So but they don't walk bipedal. There's a difference. Like a grizzly bear can be 12 or 1,300 pounds, but they're not bipedal, and so
right.
it just.
Yeah, they're four-legged animals. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're talking about bipedal, you can't have 8 feet, 800 pounds, or 12 feet, 1,200 pounds. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And that is just biologically. And I'm the big doctor here, or the big PhD. It's critical thinking telling me it can't be 8 feet, 800 pounds, because I've seen that show, that 600-pound life or whatever. These poor people can't even walk. So you're telling me that it just can't happen.
No,
and I'm not saying anybody's lying. I'm just saying it's over exaggerated.
Well, psychologists have shown that it's a natural response, even when a person comes to threaten you or attack you. It's just a natural response to overestimate their size. We do that instinctually. And as far as Sasquatch goes, I mean, I don't watch wrestling, but if you're a fan of wrestling, the wrestler, Big Show, he's 7'2" or 7'4", whatever it is.
He's actually 7 feet exactly.
Okay, so he topped out at just over 400 pounds. So you figure something that's basically a head taller than him, double the weight. I mean, just think of the size that would have to be.
Consider weight is almost impossible to determine. Size is. But I'll say this: people at certain distances can easily misinterpret. Well, it was up to this limb, but maybe it wasn't, or maybe there's terrain they're not taking in. So we know this much. If they're a physical being of this earth, they cannot be walking around 2 legs, 15 feet tall. That's impossible.
Nope.
Square cube law says nope. Tyrannosaurus Rex was 15 feet tall, and look at how that thing was.
But
designed.
It had a tail. Tyrannosaurus Rex had a tail to keep it.
Yeah, it had a pivot, right? So it was bipedal, and it was 15 feet tall, but it was a huge, huge animal that had like this pivot thing going on, not this vertical kind of like thing. So yeah, they can't. Dude, if they're 15 feet tall, there's something going on there that we don't know about.
Plus,
that's almost proof. If you could
Tyrannosaurus Rex also, Tyrannosaurus Rex would walk around going, "I can't get my I can't grab anything and put it. What are these for? Jeez, I mean, it's just
those are for loving. Remember that.
I did all the work.
Yeah.
Why do I have this 40-foot tail? My hands are only 2 feet long. Jeez.
I had a report. I had a report one time from a lady that was in the Yukon, and I never really followed up on it, but she claimed that she saw a Sasquatch that was 20 feet tall and had a 48-inch footprint.
No, I mean,
and it's like, that's why I never followed. But I would love to have seen something, because you even think of that. that footprint is 20%. The length of that footprint is 20% of the height of what she claimed. That would have been one goofy looking thing walking down that that tundra.
Well, stuff like that, regardless, even any one of us or anybody else that has witnessed anything, we all have our own interpretation and perception, which, we've discussed that in other podcasts before. But perception, I like to include the word deception, because our perception, we could, we could deceive ourselves over being overwhelmed by what we're seeing. So there's a lot of things people can understand that with what one of us might claim. Like, one thing I used to tell people a lot when I share my thoughts and my theories and my research, don't take my word for it. Do your research, look into it, try to study up on it. And I try to lay out, I try to give a picture, a mental illustration on how I compare things. But like what Bill was talking about, it reminded me a lot about perception and the way people interpret. So we all get carried away with when we talk about things. It's because it's a form of excitement in ourselves.
True.
So,
True.
So
the closer, I agree with that, but the closer to actual 6 foot human being you get, the more dialed in you will be. So that 6 to 8 foot range is quite accurate. So in other words, you could look up at something at 8 feet and pretty much be able to know it's 8 feet, but
because if I was to come close, if I was face to face, just between anywhere from 10 to 20 feet on level ground, and I see that thing's almost 2 feet taller than me, I can say, that's 8 feet. I'm 6 foot tall. So
you get at least ballpark it.
Yeah, exactly.
So ironically, the closer it gets to the average man's height, but it has that 8 feet's freaking tall, dude. I don't know if you guys have ever stood in front of an 8 foot tall Bigfoot replica, but it's like that. Dude, I have 8 foot ceilings in my apartment. It's like staring up, looking at your ceiling where it meets the wall. It's that high.
Go onto a basketball court, stand underneath or next to the basketball rim. The rim itself to the ground is 9 feet. So, think about
feet.
that.
10
feet. Okay. I'm sorry. Well, there you go. That's even better then. So, someone like me, I'm 6 foot. So what's that? Another 4 feet, and reaching my hand up, I'm still short, so that's pretty tall. So there you go. A 6 foot to a 10 foot,
8 foot tall.
I think it's the weight. The weight too, though, is what most people, like I said, just think of you, Daniel, you're 6 feet. So just say you're 600 pounds. It's impossible. It's impossible. You can't. It's 100 pounds a foot. It's just
what's interesting, Jay, is I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast my brother-in-law's sighting. One of the things that made that one really interesting is his dad was 6'4", 290 pounds, but his oldest brother, at the time was 6'6" and about 350, and his brother did tap out at over 500 pounds before he had to have bypass surgery. His brother also wore size 17 shoes. So when he had his close up, he knew what a 6'6" guy looked like that was 350 plus pounds. And when he saw the track, he knew what a size 17 barefoot looked like. And when he saw that track, he could say, well, that's way bigger than my brother's footprint. So, that was sort of, that's what leads credence to it, is because he knows what a big guy looks like. And I think you're, exactly right. If you're 5'4" and you see somebody that's 7 feet tall, you may overestimate more than say somebody that's 6'2".
Yep. But the other thing is too, if you think about people giving these estimations on weight, a lot us as humans. All right, I'm going to throw a little illustration. Let's say, entertain the thought that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, is some form of non-human primate of some sort. However, like for example, chimpanzees compared to one of us, their muscle mass. I don't know. This is not accurate. It's probably fairly close, but their muscle mass is they have probably more of a 90% muscle mass compared to us. We have body fat. They have a very low percentage of body fat. But so for the record, muscle does weigh more than fat. So, and then again, we don't know the muscle mass of a Sasquatch. We could assume it's probably a great percentage. So, that way, we might be able to give some fairly close, maybe not. I don't know. This is just me speaking, speaking off the tongue here, but looking at things fairly quick. But I don't know. So muscle, yeah, there's something to consider if we understood their muscle mass compared versus their body fat. I mean, no one's ever claimed to see a big fat Sasquatch with a big old, belly.
Well, actually, in BC, a lot of the early accounts did describe them as having a beer belly.
Oh,
which would go along if you're somebody that believes that they might eat similar foods to a moose. One of the adaptations you see with those type of even in primates, you will get the bigger belly because you have longer intestines or bigger stomachs that you need to break down the cellulose.
Right.
So actually, Christopher Murphy a number of years ago had a little statue made that was based upon a lot of the witness statements that he had read over the years, and did have that pot belly. And if you do look at a lot of the apes, monkey and ape species, they will. Where we're basically different than apes is apes when they gain weight tend to gain it only in the stomach area.
Exactly. Yeah. Look at gorillas, for example. Yeah.
Where people, for some reason, get the double chins and things like that. But when you're talking weight, think of a grizzly. I don't know if you've ever seen a grizzly skinned out or not, but you take when they're skinned out, they have strong muscles. I mean, they have great musculature. And for you to get, say, an 8-foot tall, 1,000-pound grizzly, generally speaking, for that size, you're going to get it probably not long before hibernation, and it's got a real thick layer of fat on it. That same grizzly, come springtime, when he comes out of hibernation, he can lose 20% of his mass.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. So. Yeah. I'm not sure where Pat went, but
silence. Guys, I got to get going. I got to get up at 3:00 in the morning, go to work again.
Yeah, I don't have to get up there early, but
this is my 58-hour week. So well, I've had a great time. Daniel, I'd like to talk more with you at some point, or
Pat's been trying to get me on here. I've just been very tired and exhausted, working long days, and I got my grandson living here, so when I come home, I take over. So, so he's a lot of fun, but he's very exhausting. He'll be a year old next month. So, and then plus I've been trying to work on getting some final organization with I got my annual Virginia Bigfoot conference coming up here at the end of June. So that's I've been working on a few minor things with that and getting that going, because a lot of people that are planning on attending are getting excited for it. I am too. So,
do you ever have Sibylla down? Do you ever have her in your what you were just talking about?
Who's that now?
Sibylla Kristen Irwin.
I think I know that name.
She does all the artwork in most of the Bigfoot movies and.
Okay.
She's amazing. I named my dog after her. Plus, she's the first person to give me any kind of counsel. She does that for people. She told me that she had counseled a professional wrestler who she would never give his name, but said that he was a very big fellow and that he had encountered a female Sasquatch walking the trail. This guy likes to hike. And she didn't do anything or anything like that, but it it screwed him up so bad that there was something bigger than him out there.
Right.
And she actually, she said he cried like a baby talking to her and stuff.
Wow.
And she, you know, she's been a confidant and a very close friend of mine for a while. But yeah, she's an amazing person. I really admire. I named my dog after her. I got her permission to do it, but
Yeah, I'll have to look into her, especially for the future. This year here would have been our 4th annual event, but it's actually only our 3rd since last year we had to postpone and everything. So we do have a great group of people that'll be there to speak. Then we got some guy from Georgia coming up. But anyway, no, I won't mention his name. No, I'm picking Pat.
Hey, Daniel, before you get off, do you have a website or something where if somebody wants to follow your group could check it out?
ECBRO.
Yeah, I got the main Facebook group, which is the ECBRO, the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. There's a ECBRO like page. There is a website, but the website's mainly for the event, the annual event, which is vabigfootcon.com. I do have a blog site, which I haven't added nothing in there recently, but you can check that out. That is ecbro.wordpress.com. I have my YouTube channel, Bigfoot Zone, with ECBRO in parentheses. There's a number of podcasts. You'll see me and Pat on a number of podcasts. I have a lot of my field videos in there. I've had my YouTube channel for quite a long time, but maybe 8-9 years. It's finally just starting to grow a little bit better. I got like a little over 2,800 subscribers. And no, I don't make much. The most I've ever made, I made $100 a few years ago off of it. You know, it is a monetized channel, but it's I don't make no money off of it. But I have fun posting my field videos. And if you check out the field videos, you'll see that a lot of it's me exploring and pointing out. You will see a lot of me being a very objective and explaining and sharing the possibilities that this could be. But you'll never hear me say, no, this is or this is not, unless I could explain it. Because a lot of what I share, I talk a lot about wildlife. I'm very much into wildlife with my research. So, yeah, you guys can check that out. One thing, too, for anybody that's not familiar with me, just do a Google search on my name with Bigfoot next to it. You'll see what, or ECBRO, my first and last name with ECBRO. And you'll get a number of things. I'm all over the internet, so.
Thanks.
Cool.
I wanted to add something.
Jay,
I wanted to add something.
Jay, I hope you.
I just wanted to add that when it comes to the part of the belly part of the great apes is the amount of vegetation they eat, which causes great amounts of gas too. Which I was just watching recently something on Diane Fossey and then something else on Jane Goodall, and they talk about that and how it's not on camera, but that whole time they're with these animals, that's all they do is fart, because all they do is eat vegetables all day, grasses and seeds and pretty much anything they get their hands on, nettles and all that. And so, but part of that is what causes the belly to go out. That's where they gain their weight, like you guys were saying.
And that's where also on that, like pandas, where they eat a low, you take a carnivore and then you turn them into something that's eating a low nutrition food. Their stomachs will get bigger, their intestines will expand or lengthen over time in evolution, so that they can take those foods and process them longer in their stomach. So for a lot of people, and I don't believe that Sasquatch are the great carnivores, because just simply ranchers would know about them a long time ago, because they would have been killing off cattle and sheep just like the wolves and everything else did. But if they're eating something similar to an elk or a moose, especially during the winters and they don't hibernate, there's a good chance that they would have the bigger stomach to account for longer intestines, bigger stomach, so that they can take that lower nutritional food and maximize what they're getting out of it.
Yeah, I've always believed. Now, this may not be factual, but it's my belief. One of the things I've always believed, like here on the East Coast, I could mainly speak more particularly here in Virginia, but along the East Coast, the black bear population is pretty great compared to what you guys have out west. But the black bear diet is basically 80% vegetation, 20% meat, and I do believe, that Sasquatch may be very similar. However, the percentage might be a little different based off of what they require for calories in their diet. But I always had this belief, and I've had research to kind of maybe point me or lead me towards this belief. But it may vary. It just may will vary based off of what's available in their habitat or where they're at. So
we got a deer
Yeah,
out here
and I think
trying to climb through it.
And I think a lot, that makes a lot of sense. The only major difference, though, is the hibernation time, between bears and Sasquatch, if they do exist. Now, here on the West Coast, here in the lower mainland of British Columbia, we're in a temperate rainforest, so quite often black bears will not hibernate, or if they do, it's a short period over a couple of weeks. So who's to say that a Sasquatch doesn't do the same? But I think the biggest difference in dietary requirements would be the survival over the hibernation period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and down here, like in the southeastern United States, and Georgia to Virginia, black bears, they do not hibernate here. They don't.
That's exactly that's what I try to tell people up here. I've been out in the woods, all seasons, year round, throughout the years, and that's one thing I've noticed. The black bears are on the move when you think they should be hibernating. People think,
they just don't do it.
Yeah,
they
because
might get a little sluggish, but they don't hibernate.
Well, especially down south, your winters are more mild than they are. I mean, our winters are very mild here in Virginia. Although some years we've gotten some pretty heavy snowfalls, but yeah, it's just very mild winters, which there is always some form of food to be eaten there. So
absolutely,
yeah. So yeah, they do eat now. Like when the cold, they do still go through their natural habits of fattening up their bellies because they do become slower. They do, they may not move around as much, but they do move around during those cold winters up here. So, but people think, oh, we're not going to count on no bears. Think again. But
Hey, Jay, before you get off, because you said you were going to get off. I do hope you stay at least semi-active, because I'd like to talk to you in the future again on something like this. And I think you're a great resource. And I know go through your own thing and do what you're comfortable with. But I hate to see us lose you. So don't go too far.
Here's where I'm at. I don't like being a co-host at all. I'm not a good interviewer. It's easier just if I'm talking. It's got nothing. I love Daniela, and I don't care what anybody says. I love her. I just don't want to do that anymore. I don't want the responsibility of trying to think up questions and things like that. I'm just a guy that likes to talk, and I like the freedom of not being attached to anything, at all, as far as doing shows and things like that. I just don't like it. I wasn't comfortable with it at all. It was my idea for the Bigfoot Cafe. It was my idea. I approached her with it, and she said, okay. So, I can't do it anymore. I just don't want to do it. I'm just so tired of everything that's going on that I don't mind doing something like this now and then, or even I'm going to do the cafe again, hopefully. But I just, I have too much other things I have to do. And right now I'm so busy, I can't hardly stand it. And, with my cooking channel, that's taken a lot of, and I'm actually going to do a Mother's Day. I've got almost a 4-pound tomahawk steak that I'm going to do for my wife
Yes.
and I so I'm going to film that. And I'm going to do some baked potatoes, going to do some snow crab legs and a
Nice.
few other things for Mother's Day. And I've got a bunch of them. I've got about 5 shows that are in the bank right now. I got some great. I did a tri-tip on a flat rock while we were camping. I also did with my neighbor's daughter. Took her camping with us. I did a 2 pork roast. I made them into pulled pork. I filmed her doing the show. I let her have the show that day. She's 15. And what we did is we just made a simple ketchup and mustard and over an open fire. I got some breakfast things that my wife did. And I've got some things in the bank that are gonna come out, but I try to make each one gets better and better, a little bit more professional, a little bit more professional. I've already gotten 2 gifts. One was a meat slicer, which is awesome, and another was 4 injection kits for meat injection. And so I'm going to I'm going to do a whole chicken too that's injected with jalapeno and butter, and I've already done 2 of them. Oh, they're so
that
good.
sounds good. It sounds good.
So I'm going to do.
My wife and I are hating you right now, Jay, because neither one of us had dinner yet.
I don't even know what I'm going to have tonight already. I mean, I've got to get up and go to work tomorrow. It looks like we're catching up finally enough at work where right now I'm working 5 10-hour days and then 1 8-hour day on every other Saturday. And I'm 59 years old, man. I'm not a kid anymore. It's killing me. But
I'll tell you, Thomas Steenberg introduced me to John Green a few years ago before his passing. And John had a great piece of advice because we were talking about Sasquatch, and I think you're doing it. He said, you have to, when you live your life, there are times when Sasquatch research may be real important to you. And there's other times in your life where putting your kids through school or your career or those other things, they have to be your focus, and Sasquatch research gets put to the side. And I think you're doing that. But again, I enjoy our talking with you, and I'd hate to see us lose you long term.
I appreciate that, Bill. I really do. I looked back at Rene Dahinden, and I knew him personally. He gave up his family, his kids, his wife for this stupid subject. He gave all that away to pursue this. I will never, ever put Sasquatch ahead of my family, my own sanity, my health, or the love of anybody that I know. It's not going to take, I'm not that much into it. And another thing I'll say is a lot of the Canadians say, oh, there's no cover up. Well, look, there's something going on, because if I saw one, and I've seen 2, but if I've seen them, then come on, man. If I know they're there and I saw what I saw and I know what I know, then there's bigger powers out there that know more than me, that have seen more than me. It has to be. So it doesn't make sense. You got all these biologists, you got all this government shit out in the forest all the time. You got the Forest Service in itself. I think it's bigger than them, though. I think it's bigger than a president. It's bigger than all of that. But if I saw them, I hate to say it. What I saw was a female. What I thought was just a big human woman. Then I don't. There's got to be something, some kind of cover up of some kind. I don't know. I don't preach it. I don't care. All I know is I'm one of the few privileged, apparently, which I don't consider much of a privilege because it's done nothing but fuck with me. So, I mean, if I could go back in time and this never happened, that's where I'd like to be right now. That's the whole rest of this shit can go bye-bye as far as I'm concerned. I'd rather go back 4 years and this never happened. And then I just go on doing what I was doing back then. So, that's how I look at this.
The red pill.
Yeah.
Or the blue pill.
But since I can't,
it is. Yeah,
I can't help but not get into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not losing me forever, guys. No, you're not losing me forever. Right now, I'm just not not happy with what's going on in this field at all. And the thing is, I left it before, way back when I was partners with Will Jevning, way back in the early 90s, and knew Renee quite well at that time. And I knew Ray Crow and a few of these other people that most of you young people don't have a clue who these people are. They were, people that I looked up to at that time, but nothing's changed. I left back then because of the hatred and the shit. But then coming back after this encounter, then all of a sudden there's this thing they call the woo, and there's all this other stuff. I'm just like, this has gotten no better ever. It's just, I was just stunned. We went from a Dr. Krantz to a Dr. Meldrum. But in between, if you watch some of the older documentaries, there's been a lot of scientists, actually, a lot of PhDs that have supported this. A lot of them. For some reason, some of them, their names just never got out there. But if you watch some of the old, I'm going to talk about from the 70s, you had people supporting, PhDs supporting this. And their names got lost in time. I don't understand what happened. Even PhD was in the 90s and early 2000s. If you watch some of the Monster Quest and things like that, you had some people that were heavily supporting this that just disappeared off the planet.
Well, there is biologists that were out there that and there's actually professors and staff from universities that are involved with the research, but they don't put themselves out there, and some of them actually, believe it or not, teach classes on Sasquatch. It's a more of a discussion thing, but yeah, you'll be surprised. But again, they don't put themselves out there. I'm sure there's more than what we realize or what we know. We could only just imagine. I mean, it seems like it's on a hush hush, which basically it is. But there's people out there in educational levels and biologists, primatologists that are involved, and I'm not talking about people on Bigfoot shows or not. These are people that
No, they are out there. I've experienced with some of them. I debated a primatologist a couple 6 weeks ago or so. Like. She was more curious than anything else. It wasn't a debate. Right. It was a open discussion. And I'll be doing it again this Tuesday, but not with primatologists, but with skeptics. Ironically enough.
Jane Goodall says there's no reason the Sasquatch doesn't exist. She says it's probable that they do exist. Jane Goodall says this.
So, and I brought that up in the debate with a real primatologist, anthropologist. She had no clue. She was like, "What? Jane Goodall said that?"
Yeah, I would take that with a huge grain of salt.
No, she said it.
Grain of salt.
She said it.
I know she said it multiple times, but again, her, and I don't want to take anything away from her because what she did with the chimps of Gombe was phenomenal. And I in the early 80s, physical anthropology and archaeology was my major in university, and I remember when her stuff was still really leading edge stuff, and not that it's not now. It's just like with all these years, she, there's a vast amount of knowledge that didn't have 40 years ago. But again, when you get into what she's saying, you got to get into the fossil record and everything else. It's nice to say, yes, it could exist, and yeah, it could, but where's the evidence? Where do we have
fossil record isn't a debunk of evidence. I mean,
no, but
the
again,
fossil record is incomplete.
It is, but again, right now the only species that we know of that could possibly be related to Sasquatch is Gigantopithecus blacki, or it's the leading contender, because there are some other ones.
Oh no, not even close. It goes way further back than that.
Well, even if you disagree, but you take any one of the leading contenders, take the top 10. Take the top 10 leading contenders. Okay.
Yeah.
Which one of them has a fossil record in Siberia, northern China, Mongolia, let alone North America?
Well, again, the fossil record is incomplete. We don't have a complete record of fossilization.
I'm not saying we do, but again, when you're
there's less than a dozen chimpanzee fossils.
But now, again, you have chimpanzee, and I understand.
When it comes to Gigantopithecus, we have a couple mandibles with some teeth,
which we should have never found.
We can't say
we shouldn't even know that Giganto existed.
Even Dr. Disotol will tell you that there's no way we can say that because of these teeth and because of these half mandrels that this thing was 8 or 10 feet tall and that it walked up. It's absurd.
It was about,
and I agree with that. I mean, I think a lot of is Grover Krantz, and this goes back to the old thing. Grover Krantz had an answer. I have a Sasquatch, or sorry, he had his answer here, Sasquatch.
Yeah,
and then he took and made the question fit the answer. Which he took these large teeth. You could have some, and we've had it with some other the fossil record, where the primates had oversized jaws and teeth compared to their size based upon what they ate. So there's there is
what Krantz took was a 1950s thinking of Gigantopithecus, which was in 1950 they thought, wow, this was a 10-foot tall biped. Now in 2021, the general consensus is it was about 20% bigger than a gorilla, and it was a knuckle dragger. So the what you hear in the Bigfoot world is always that 1950s thinking that has been just keeps resounding.
Exactly.
That's reverberating through the Bigfoot world. That's it.
And that's my point. I'm just saying that when we're talking about, you talking about fossils in that, quite often people say, well, there's no fossils in North America because of the soil and everything. But again, there's nothing in the fossil record, even on the other side of what would have been the Beringia or Bering Sea landmass that we found. So,
I agree, but if you take the fossil record further back, you do have good candidates.
Yeah, and they're saying that T-Rex there may have been over time 1 billion of them. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. And we found a dozen fossils, full skeletons. So I understand that. I understand the principle of fossilization. Again, back in the 80s when I was in university, that's what I was doing. Right?
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that we can conjecture all sorts of animals being in all sorts of places, but you do have to look at what the available evidence is. And so far to date, at least that I've seen, we don't have a viable contender for Sasquatch on either this side of the Bering Sea or the other side.
Yeah. As far as Now, this wouldn't support no Sasquatch, but primate bones in general, and this is small primates that wouldn't support Bigfoot. But many years ago, I came across a document. It was basically it was from a anthropologist. It was a study based off of some findings here in the United States continent, actually out of the state of Texas, that there were small primate bones remains discovered. But again, we're talking like maybe like a size or not much bigger than a gibbon. Then up in the Arctic, there's been, what's the word? Tropical plants that have been found, remains of tropical plants that are of course not growing up there, but it makes you wonder what happened so many years ago. I mean, the world, it's believed that the world was flooded and things happened over the time, and but I don't know. You just never know, because I mean, we found, and again, this is not really Sasquatch related, but it kind of give you back during the Pleistocene era and the prehistoric era. I mean, we've come across the remains of mammoths here in the country by accident, people on people's private property. Then we've come across the fossils of other dinosaurs, and we got ancient bones that have been discovered. Some of them might have been in old caves, but there's so much land, so much territory that, you don't have people really, you don't have archaeologists out there everywhere in the country, but you got people like excavators that do that for a living. You never know. They've come across things accidentally. We don't know what's under the surface. So they get to digging.
We don't know.
We
don't know.
There's also, as we all know, there has been dinosaurs and other species, quote unquote, discovered that have been sitting around in museum drawers for 50, 60 years, either misidentified or lost. So I understand all that. I also understand that we had, back at, we had the age of apes, where we had far more monkey and ape species than we currently have. Most of them died off. I can't remember now. I'd have to look, but it's a few 100,000 years ago. We do have New World monkeys in South America and that. So, I mean, when it comes to monkeys and that, yeah, they're quite possibly they were here. All I'm saying is, when we're looking for you have to look at the evidence that's in front of you now. We can speculate that
I agree.
that something that we haven't discovered has come across a bridge. So not only have we never had a fossil of it, we've never had the bones of it, we've never had a dead body of it. Nobody's hit it with a train. Nobody's hit it with a car. Nobody's got DNA from. Nobody's done any of that. We still have to look at what evidence do we have, and that's where, when you look at the totality, the totality of it, the best physical evidence that people can bring forward is footprints.
I agree, but at the same time, I must also stick to the fact that the fossil record is in no way any kind of debunk, because the fossil record is only complete as we have it documented, and that's not a complete thing. That's not a complete.
But it's not a complete debunk, but it is a evidence of absence. And that's the thing is, but you can't say you're a critical thinker if you're only taking points that you believe in. When you look at the fossil record, okay, you're looking at it in isolation, but look at it with everything else. Okay, yeah, we may have only found a dozen chimpanzee fossils, but we have hundreds of thousands of chimpanzee bones that have been, people have stuffed them and eaten them and everything else. But when you look at Sasquatch, no fossil, no modern bones.
I agree, and there has to. Here's my point, Bill. There has to be a reason for that disconnect. Is all I'm saying. is like there's a reason for that. But I think I'm a little like, again, like you and I had this discussion that night. I think I'm a little like deeper into that like understanding, or I don't want to come across as rude, or thinking that this phenomenon is legit, you know, and trust me, Bill, I do hope that it is a physical being. I'm not dealing with something in the supernatural world, but for some reason, people are seeing 8-foot tall monkey men in the woods. There has to be a reason for that. So therefore, the disconnect between the fossil record and what people are observing today on the ground, there has to be a reason for that. And I don't know what that reason is. But I want a freaking answer to it.
And that's, you know, there's no doubt the phenomenon exists. There's no 100%. There's no doubt about it. And where the difference is, when it comes to fossil evidence, I'm taking fossil evidence as part of the total physical evidence. You seem to be separating it from it. And as far as
that's only because that's
but again, physical evidence. What physical evidence do you have?
Yeah, a lack of fossil collection and records that we have. We are constantly discovering new things in the fossil record, even in the primate world.
Yes, again, agreed. But again, you're speculating, and this thing is, I'm only looking at the evidence we have before us right now, and the evidence before us that we have right now is the only physical evidence you can show of any sort. Maybe tracks. You can't show bones. You can't show a body. You can't show fossils. Now, maybe tomorrow, some poor Sasquatch steps in front of a semi,
probably
gets creamed out, and we say, "Hey, look at this. We've got a body."
Yeah.
Or maybe tomorrow, somebody in a museum pulls
you're
out,
right.
I mean, look, I think
you're right on your talking points. Like, absolutely. Like I cannot show a bone, or anyone can't show a bone or a body, or like a good recent example in the fossil record. Now, if you go deep enough in the fossil record, you know, things like that, there's good candidates. But you're right. It's not like, you know, something was dug up in Siberia, or even Alaska or wherever to even connect it to North America. So that doesn't exist. So you're 100% correct on that.
Guys, I'm out. I got no choice.
All right, Jay.
I could do this all night normally. If I didn't have to work in the morning, I'd be up for 4 or 5 hour show. It wouldn't bother me. I appreciate this opportunity, Pat. I've told you I wanted to work with you. It's good to see you again, Bill and Daniel. I really appreciate meeting you tonight. It's been a great show.
Absolutely,
guys. I got to get some supper and I got to go to bed. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, buddy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Great seeing you.
I appreciate
I'm going to jump off myself.
All right, guys. Good night.
You have a good one. Yeah, guys, I'm going to jump off myself because I got to be able to get up in the morning with a baby. So
have a good one.
Nice to meet you. I'll be back. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be in touch again. Pat, for next time he has this on a Friday, I could probably join in on a Friday like this again. So it's hard to do it during the week. So, but you guys have a good night.
Yeah, it was good having you tonight, brother. And I'll talk to you soon, man.
Oh yeah, because I want to try to talk with all the speakers and everybody. Maybe try to get in a group chat or something, or even if I have to do it 1-on-1. I just want to kind of get work on getting our game a little bit more of a game plan on a few things. So, but we'll be in touch, and you guys have a good night. So,
all right, see you, Dan.
All right.
All right.
So Pat, just going down just before and I don't know if you want to head off now, but just one thing to talk about as well. On the flip side, okay? On the flip side.
All right, give it to me.
Thousands of witnesses statements, with eyewitness accounts, hundreds, if maybe not thousands, of tracks that cannot be cannot be proven as not being naturally occurring. So there is evidence for existence. It's highly unlikely that all the people that had said they've seen Sasquatch fit into misidentification, hoaxing, lying, whatever you want to make it.
Agreed.
So, again, when we're looking at what I'm saying, okay, that evidence doesn't exist, which you've agreed doesn't exist as we know it. There is evidence that says they do exist. We do have, eyewitnesses, and I'm not discounting them. And again, it's just how you place, how much priority or emphasis you put on different types of evidence.
I agree. Let me say this real quick. Like, actually, I mean, in scientific terms, like anecdotal isn't actually evidence. You know what I mean? It doesn't tell you what you're observing. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I actually don't include anecdotal accounts as evidence of anything other than a phenomena. That's it.
And that's where a lot of people get upset with me, is because, I'm of the same opinion.
Yeah.
Is eyewitness accounts. All I can do, like I said, when I interview somebody, there is that certain percentage that when I go through all my lists, I can say I have no reasonable explanation for what they saw or thought they saw. Right. So that's where you can, and this is where, we talked earlier about how we define things is, yes, from the, and it's anecdotal evidence. And that's why I don't put a high priority on it. It's anecdotal evidence, but it's still evidence that there is something that I cannot explain. Same with the tracks. I've seen tracks that people have brought forward that I've looked at, and I go, I am 100% sure it's a double bear footprint. And I would, but I'm not a primatologist. I'm not a locomotion, expert, anything like that. But there's obviously there is stuff out there that we can't explain away as something else. Dr. Meldrum, you would think no matter what you think of him personally, is it reasonable to assume that every track he has is faked or misidentification? What? I don't know. That
would blow my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So that's stuff you can't ignore.
Yeah.
Right. And
I agree. And that's where you and I kind of come back to this point of meeting together as skeptics, even, or open-minded people, however you want to frame that, is that, that's kind of what I'm saying is like, for whatever reason, there's a phenomena. I just want the answers. I don't personally, Bill, have a cherished belief what that reason would be. All I have is like a good starting point. And I'll put it to you this way. It's like my buddy Ernie says. He says, I don't care if they come from planet Hairtron. They still meet our definition of a primate, at least visually, So
yeah, and
what I mean.
And here's where I know eDNA is too expensive right now. But again, this is when you're looking at future proofing. 20 years ago, a study like Dr. Sykes did was unheard of.
Right.
20 years from now, 30 years from now, eDNA may become so cheap and so widespread that provides us with more evidence, and it's speculation, of course, right? But all we have is what we have, and at the end of the day, like for myself personally, I said it before, I don't hope Sasquatch exists. I don't hope Sasquatch does not exist. I merely want to know the answer to the question. And that's what's important to me. And for people that, obviously nobody knows me, I started out as a believer. I started out, as a 5-year-old kid believing them. 1974, my grandmother gave me On the Track of Sasquatch by John Green. I believed 100, and I still have that book, and John Green did autograph it for me. Treasured possession.
Right.
But I started out believing 100%. My experiences from growing up in, the edge of hundreds of acres of woods, hunting, camping, fishing, four-wheeling, all that other stuff, all times of the year, has led me to say, I don't think anything's here. And, that's just my personal perspective from my experiences. I could be out tomorrow and I could have a encounter similar to Jay's and wish like hell that I'd stopped looking 10 years ago. Like that.
Sure.
Or I could be like, John Green and ready to Hinden and, pass away before the answer, the answer to the question is ever found.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example, especially that, you kind of swam in these waters somewhat, like you're talking about having that book signed by John Green, it's a great example of, what skepticism is and why it should exist. You shouldn't be convinced, it's not a virtue to be easily persuaded by people necessarily. That's not virtuous to me. So that's why I respect you. That's why I had you on tonight. I respect your opinion, and whatever you say that we might even disagree with, we can have those disagreements, and so I appreciate you being here and giving that perspective. It's always welcome at Squatch Talk, no matter what.
And I think at the end of the day, we probably agree on 98 to 99% of the stuff.
Probably so. We agree on a lot. Yeah.
And I'm just throwing that number out there. Obviously, we both agree there's a phenomenon, and and I think we both agree that it's not just in North America. That the phenomena is worldwide. It may not simply be Sasquatch all over, where it's you're talking Yeti, Yeren, Orang, Pendak. Even if they're separate species, there's a phenomenon that certainly is big in North America, probably getting bigger over the last few years. And it's Yowie in Australia. It's obviously there's a phenomenon that's there that some people have tried to explain, whether it's, again, some theologians that have said the Nephilim or whatever, or if it's clinical psychologists that have said it's the human condition where we've made stories to keep our kids from walking away from the campfires.
Yeah.
A lot smarter people than me have tried to explain it, and I don't think any of them have, no matter how much they might think they have.
Well, that, I think, is a very fair statement. And so before we go, Bill, I'll put you on the hot seat a little bit. Okay. and just ask you right now, tonight, this date and this time, do you have an opinion on what a likely explanation would be?
I think there's numerous ones for parts, because I think the phenomenon is so large, is that we have separate things that are playing into it. For example, I think there's, there is the and I'll call them the woo crowd, but the ones that are into the or I'll go on a different one. There's a segment of the people that believe in Sasquatch that believe it's a spiritual entity. Some First Nations believe that, some others think it. And if you are somebody that believes in the spiritual, that might be part of the phenomenon. There's also people that I think that love to have that scary boogeyman, whether it's in the woods or whatever, that they've created that monster in the woods to scare them, and whether it's passed down. I think that might be some of it. Some of it might be like when you go, like I said, and I don't know if I'm explaining myself right, but I think the phenomenon is so large that there's a number of different aspects to it that are encompassed into it. I think spirituality has some to do with it. I think modern mythology has some to do with it. And I mentioned Joseph Campbell before. There's some psychologists in that believe it's part of the human condition, where we will invent certain hero villain archetypes that people will see. I think some of it is like we saw in the movie Sasquatch. People are saying stuff, and it's not just now, but it's also been throughout history, in the woods. Also, when you look at some of the legends that have been brought into Sasquatch, even local, like here with the Chehalis band, they talked about a race of giants that were warlike and that had, bows, arrows, basically just giants, not hairy men, just giants that that were fierce, that they were able to defeat in battle, and they were retreated to the woods because they were defeated by the Chehalis. Well, that's part of the mythology that groups bring up. How do you show how brave, strong, powerful you are? You have stories about an opponent that was Superman-like, giant, huge, that you've defeated them. So that makes you the better warrior. Janoskwa, when you look at the Janoska, as in that thing I posted on your Facebook account, a lot of the early stories, they were not Sasquatch related. They were a giant that I've heard stories, because when I was, like I said, when I was in university, my main area of study was the Aboriginals of Canada. It was actually North America and Canada, and I did a lot of study on that. Fair discourse. When I left university, I never did a single day in that field. I've been in manufacturing for the last 40 years. And so a lot of my stuff is outdated. I know that. When you look at a lot of those stories, it was simply stories of having an enemy that was a giant, so big, so powerful, you were able to defeat him. And you see that worldwide. Cultures talking about their enemy was great. Caesar not Caesar, but was Hannibal really the great general? Was Carthage really that great of a threat to Rome? Or was it after Rome defeated them, they made Hannibal the great general? Because if Hannibal is that great of a general, look at me, I beat him. What am I?
True.
You look at the first peace treaty on record, which was between the Egyptians and the Hittites. That peace treaty is on record. They believe from that treaty that they fought to a stalemate. The Pharaoh back in Egypt was talking about his great victories. King of the Hittites, he was back talking about his great victories. And it was all about the self-promotion and look how powerful I am.
True, but I'll say this. When it comes to the anecdotal accounts of Sasquatch, no one ever claims to defeat them.
No, but I'm just saying when people are talking about, oh, the Aboriginals have had these stories for years, and this is where I think I talked on Daniela's show, where they've taken some of the historical stories, and we've over time, even John Green did this, morphed them into stories that fit our modern version of Sasquatch to show, hey, look, the Aboriginals have had stories for thousands of years that are Sasquatch. When you really go and look at those stories, they don't fit that criteria. So I'm just saying, as far as the phenomenon, I think it's very complex, multifaceted, and there's many different parts of it.
Yeah.
If you're talking about just the average Joe that's walking in the bush and sees a Sasquatch, I can't tell you. I honestly,
You're right.
if I knew
That's
the
where
answer,
I'm
I'd be
at.
writing books.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's where I'm at too. So again, we kind of come back around in the same circle of thinking. So I'll ask you this one last question before we go. How do I frame this? What would it take other than straight up body, or part of a body, or decomposed body, whatever, a giant femur. What would it take besides the body, and I don't want you to go straight to environmental DNA. So I'm gonna take that out of the equation too. So besides a body or environmental DNA that was, properly done and all the right professionals were involved, blah, blah, blah. What would it take besides those things to really make you, go, wow, there's something here. Like, this is extremely compelling. What would it take besides that?
I honestly don't know, because like I said, I've had a couple of people that I know and respect well that have had sightings which are compelling to me. Now,
Sure.
and I would be,
but
I would be a hypocrite, I think, and I don't know Jay's story, but if I had, from just what I gleaned today, if I had an experience the same as he did, would I sit here and tell you they don't exist? I would probably be a liar, which may make me a hypocrite. But at the same token, I would like to think that I would use as much objective reasoning, and I don't know how you can do that if you've got an 8 foot tall thing trying to rip your head off, how objective you can be.
right.
But I think I would hope that I would understand other people's looking at my experience with a critical eye and not just taking my word for it. But other than I honestly don't know. I mean, we don't. I mean, I had a situation where I had what I think was a daytime. I think I was having a daydream before I fully knew I was getting ready. I was not fully there mentally, and to me, I'll tell you the story because it doesn't make sense without it. This happened. It was in early June, or sorry, early July. It was about 4:30 5 o'clock in the afternoon, summer day, clear, no, clear summer day. I'm driving down the road, and if anyone wants to look at it, you go on Google Maps in British Columbia, look at Seabird Island. I'm driving down Highway number 7 on Seabird Island, straight road. You had probably 50 yards either side of the road at this point before there was woods. 5 people in my car, including myself. Long day. Was not feeling tired. I'm driving down the road, and I haven't told any, I told a couple of people the story. I haven't told this publicly before, but driving down the road. And did you ever see the movie with James Stewart called Harvey? Okay, in that show, Harvey is an imaginary 6 foot tall rabbit that's an imaginary friend of Jimmy Stewart. I'm driving down the road, and at the side of the road, here's a 6 foot tall rabbit with a vest, paisley vest, walking down. I see it go like this, real quick. It's not in the mirror, like it was there for about partially, but it was there, gone. I pull over and I go, what the fuck was that? Nobody else in the car saw it, just me. And I mean, if it was there, everybody would have seen it. I looked at my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and I said, you better drive. And she said, yeah, I think so. I wasn't feeling tired. And I wasn't, no drugs, no alcohol, none of that stuff was involved. I get around to the passenger seat, and she says that I had a standard at the time. She says she wasn't even into third gear, and I was already asleep. So I think what happened is I was tired, didn't realize it, and I started to nod off. And really what I thought I saw was the beginning of a daydream.
Yeah.
And
Which I mean, you could legitimately call a hallucination, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that was just a weird experience I had, and it would take something well beyond that for me to believe Sasquatch exists. I would have to have, a sighting. I mean, other than any of those physical markers we talked about, I don't think just a glance could do it. It would have to be something that, in my mind, I could check off all the boxes and go, that I saw it. It was there. It was trying to, chase me to my car. That I think. And again, I don't know if that's being hypocritical saying that. And if somebody said I was being hypocritical, I don't think I could be upset with them. I think, though, as long as I looked at it as dispassionately as I could, that's the best I could do.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. I was just interested, in picking your brain on that kind of, what would it take outside of, I mean, obviously if a body showed up, on a slab somewhere, we would have answers, or even eDNA, like you talked about, between now and your 30-year projection, you're right. eDNA will become cheaper. Right now it's cutting edge. You can't afford it, Bigfoot world technology. So,
and that's the thing, is the science is evolving, and there's archaeological sites all over the world that they've discovered, and they're leaving in place because they want future generations with better technology to be able to excavate them, because we don't want to ruin stuff by doing things that we don't know. And I think that's part of the thing with the Sasquatch world is, I think that, the Brian, the Brian Sykes, that DNA study he did was absolutely first class. I think it was showing what can happen with good scientific method. And I think as we move forward, where this stuff becomes cheaper and you get more scientists that are interested in the subject, I think that's what's going to that's what's going to move us forward. And I've said it before, guys like, and this is no disrespect for any researchers, guys like myself, Thomas, Daniel, any of us right now, we're not going to find the answer. If we'll be extremely lucky if we find the answer. We got more of a chance of a Russian satellite landing on our head than we do of discovering it. What it's going to take is science. It's going to take the naturalist, the biologist that's out there doing a wildlife survey, whether it's maybe they're studying ungulates, maybe they're studying predator populations or whatever they happen to be, and they're the guys that are going to find that Sasquatch, through their whole testing method. If we do it, it's just because we were extremely fortunate.
And with that, I pretty much agree with you 100%, Bill. There's some variations there that I could touch on, but in principle, what you just said, you're right. That's what it's going to take. And that is what I'm striving for. It's my mission here. It's why I do what I do here, is to have these kind of discussions where those people see something Sasquatch and don't go, they go, what? Oh, these guys talk like this? They have, so that's my goal. That's what I'm doing here. That's what Squatch Talk's all about. And with that, Bill, thanks for being here, bro.
Okay, well, one last thing. Thank you, and thank you to your people in there. But, you're doing the right approach. Being reasonable will bring reasonable people into the discussion. If you're not being reasonable, you're not going to bring them in.
Agreed. Again, we keep coming back to agreement. See, you see how people could disagree about something and then come back to agreement? Interesting concept.
It's called respect.
Yes. Yeah, and thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight, man. Hell, the panel left. This never happens. It never happens that the panel leaves and yeah, we just keep engaging. It's almost like an after show. So, yeah, I think it was a good show, and I'm glad you were here, man. And you're welcome back. Obviously,
anytime.
Yeah.
If my schedule permits it, that's notice. I'll more than happy. I enjoy talking to reasonable people.
Well, good. So do I. Actually, I
like that comment from Lockbeard. No, fight, damn you.
Right? Yeah. I actually don't enjoy. I have no enjoyment in talking to unreasonable people. If that makes sense. I have no enjoyment out of that. There's no win-win there.
No,
it's only lose-lose.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Thanks, chat. Thanks, Sheldon, for tuning in tonight, man. Appreciate that. And Patrick Vaughn, pretty sure I'm gonna ban you from my channel just because your name's Patrick, and there's too many Pats here. So that's gonna happen. Tune in for that. I'll do a show all about that. Anyway, dude, thanks for coming on tonight. Interesting discussion. Would love to have it again. These are the kind of discussions I want to have, and with others like we did tonight, all inclusive. Everybody's opinion matters. Who's trusted and vetted, and yeah, man, we'll do it again. So
yep, sounds great. Thanks very much.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up and in the broadcast. So thanks for tuning in, guys. tonight. I appreciate it so much. And we will see you next time.